143-00009. No action was taken at this time. A motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Mulbauer, to approve the acknowledged receipt of notification from Verizon Wireless to replace 6 antennas on the tower located at 1202 Broadway Courthouse. Motion was passed unanimously. A motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Mulbauer, to approve a burn ban for Crawford County. Effective date is April 13th, 2023 at 8:00 a.m. until canceled. Motion was passed unanimously. On motion duly seconded, the board adjourned at 11:25 a.m. Agenda for the next meeting are posted and available at the courthouse on Friday at 4:30 p.m. presiding the next meeting. And then all the claims.
Thank you, ma'am. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Not, stand approved as read. Go.
Maybe your mom's watching you again.
Uh-oh, we're being supervised.
Right.
Supervisors reports. Kyle, would you like to go first this week?
Sure, why not? Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. Typical week after burn ban. All hell broke loose on Thursday.
I saw that.
And actually, you know, 2 farm places were damaged in the destruction. One by north of Aspinwall lost a couple barns, and the one between Schleswig and Denison lost a couple outbuildings, so could have been a lot worse.
It seemed like a 4-wheeler or something got roasted out in the field. What
I
happened?
think that's what started it. They were, the way I gather, they were running borders for planning and stuff, and running GPS, and then put that data into the planner, and I think that's what started it.
Oh, darn.
So I don't think either one of them were intentional. I mean, they're both accidental.
Yeah.
So the burn ban wouldn't have prevented it anyway, but my fear is today,
Yeah.
because all the smoke I seen going up last night when it was calm,
Yeah.
that's my fear, but anyways, I still think the rain and snow that we had didn't change much towards slowing that down.
Did Shelby lift theirs?
I couldn't tell
I
you.
thought that Eli said, mention that, but it's being in Irwin Fire Department, but I think we're better off keeping ours on until we know that we have enough moisture, rather than on and off, and people question, am I on, am I?
And I guess to be fair, I don't know if those, what I seen last night weren't controlled burns, because I did see on Facebook, Carmen Fire Department did a controlled grass burn last night, so they might have been burns that were
Approved
approved
by the chief. Yeah.
by the chief. So.
Yeah, Kyron, there was a guy that called me from up there, and I told him to get a hold of Bernsey,
You know,
but I just said we got it in, and you know, it isn't that we suspect you'll be negligent out there, but when that wind gets going, and especially if you got a big fire, you don't know what kind of embers, residual embers are there.
right, yep.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're totally right, but that, and I know we discussed some fence down at Dow City at the cell site down there, and
Yep.
trying to run down leads on that, and
He called me last night.
the adjacent owner, or the
No,
fence guy.
the fence guy.
Okay.
So,
you
and
found
he
the
said,
guy?
he said he will do the Bob Fire for us.
Okay, yeah,
So
so
that's-
the same company through exploration and just stumbling across it, I called Ty Friday, Thursday, it was one, anyways, last week, one day. 'Cause I seen a new fence by Charter Oaks, I called the guy who put that in, I said, who put that fence in for you, just a small chunk. And it was the same outfit that Klein Fencing that was going to do
Jeff's his name. Yeah.
all the chain link around the towers when they get up.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, geez, he's gonna be there anyway.
Yeah.
But through that, I went down to the Dow City site Wednesday night or whatever, one of the nights, and looked at it. The fence on the north side, we would be the new owners of that fence
Rules are right.
by the rules of the right, and it is junk. So I thought, if we're gonna be putting new fence around the whole thing, why not just do it all? And I measured it up, God, did I say 800 feet total fence?
Yeah, seems right.
I think we just put it all in and be done with it.
Not a far distance.
No, it really don't amount, like I said, 800 feet.
And it might be hard, to get somebody to just do that little stretch on the north side there if we have to do it in the future. Because, we don't know we would have to, but we don't know we wouldn't either, so.
If we do it now, the neighbors aren't gonna come complaining 2
Just all
years from now
done.
that the fence is junk. That's right, I mean, that's how I look at it.
Well, and if
Like
it's
another
hard,
roll of wire and, 20 more posts and some labor.
yeah. And I
Now's the
think,
time.
did you see any flags down there that tells you our boundary? We might
I
have
did
to
see
have
some
Brent-
steel posts out in the Brahmer pasture, but which I would assume were
Brent put in.
Brent put in, but then if you look on the GIS map, I question. Granted, it's just a GIS photograph,
Mhm.
so I wanted them double verified before we go put corner post in.
Put our fence in, yeah. And that's what I told this Jeff we'd do.
Mhm.
Have Brent go down there and make sure we're putting it.
I'm sure he's got coordinates that he can just go there with this,
Yeah.
there it is, so. You get that done, but through that, we're kinda somewhat stalling, cause it does make if you put fence in where it's supposed to be, it's gonna make it tight to get a crane and a semi in there with a shack on it.
And I sent,
So we'd like to, Mr. Brommer, and I get his point too, he wants to put
Kev,
cattle out in the pasture, but if we can get by with hot wire for a limited time here.
Right.
Just to make that,
here's what I sent to Lance. He asked if there was any updates on what we were doing with the fence.
Who's Lance?
Robert, that's the young man
Jason
that we
over.
bought the property from.
Alright.
We're waiting to get the shelters in, and I've actually got a call into the fencer. We hadn't heard from him yet at that point. I'm not sure how far out they will be. I called them this morning. Can you put in an electric fence until we get this done? The shelters are about done. I hope them to be delivered by mid to late May. And give us a little bit of a window there.
Mhm.
Nothing in America is fast anymore, very frustrating. He says, I was mainly wondering just about along the road where they put the new driveway in. I can live with the rest whenever, so I think he's wanting fence down there, but, as far as it goes, I mean, if we could put an electric, if he could put electric, then I just assume he did it. Because he's got electricity, but, if his cows get out, then it's his responsibility, not ours,
Mhm.
I mean, he'll know what he needs. I mean, I don't know if it's cows that he's had or if he's buying new calves to put out there that might test it. So he might need a little bit more. And then I said something to him about if there was any flags or posts out there for him to be able to figure out where to put the electric fence. And all I got was, I told him that we had to have a 40-ton crane in the truck so that the shelters come in. Okay, that's all I got back from him, so. We'll see what he does. Might be crabby, but I don't want to put any fence in that the crane might run over. Then we got a fixed fence right away.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad they called back. I mean, with the fence, they do a good job.
Yeah,
So when I seen that new 5-bar fence, I thought, well, that looks just as good as any Hubert fence, so, that'll be just perfect.
excellent. I appreciate your help. with
And
that.
then I got a Yes Center meeting on Friday up in Cherokee.
Do you have them monthly?
Yeah,
Okay.
you guys have one of them legislative updates Friday as well?
Should be, it's every Friday, but we got canceled last Friday. Kind of depends on if Jamie and Lucas can break away, but what do you got?
No, I just better double check the start time of that Yes Center meeting with Carl and Barry and.
'Cause usually ours is at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, so I think we might have moved ours up tonight
Okay.
to get done before the 11 o'clock. So, that's all.
Okay,
Short and sweet.
that's good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Dozark?
Had a Wesco meeting last night and, Just so you're aware, I just want, since you guys all have eyes and ears out there, is that they have their current wave program, I think is that, if I can remember the church, is that New Hope Church? Kind of Cape Corner off of the library. And their lease there is going to expire next March. And if you've ever been in there, I mean, that's a huge facility. It's about 5,000 square feet that they utilize in there. And they've got 50 people that are in that program. And so they are looking for another facility. And they'd be willing to sign a 5-year lease to rent that. They do want handicap accessible restrooms and handicap accessible van delivery type system. They'd like a full kitchen, and they've been looking at some other churches in the area, and they've looked at some other buildings, but I just thought I'd make you guys aware of it so that if you do think
Do you know
have
how
a
much
place.
they pay for their?
I think currently they're paying $1,200 a month. Or, excuse me, currently they're only paying $250 a month. They have a really good deal with the church. And the church is looking at expanding, and so they want to utilize that facility. They looked at a place along Highway 30, I think, where the rent would go up to around $2,000 a month, and they were okay with that.
Really?
Yeah.
So do they need that much space, or they just have?
They would like to have 5,000. He said they really, minimum would be 3,000.
And that's used every day, they use it
Every day, Monday through Friday, and that's where they've come into a little bit of issue with other churches. Is churches sometimes have those empty facilities, but funerals, other events, things like that, that's not fully accessible for, you know, for the church to let them have access to it Monday through
What all do
Friday.
they do in there?
Fit in our basement.
It's a place, I guess, if you wanna say, where they have 50 people that are in this program, that they go there on a daily basis, do activities. They want the kitchen so they can feed them. So, you know, just the day-to-day activities, I guess, is what they do with 50-some people. They kind of come and go. Sometimes they
So
might
it's
work
just a
for
big
free.
open area.
They would like, yes, an open area with maybe some rooms off to the side where they can issue them for special, you know, if these 6 people are doing this special program, they can put them in that room to do that.
Silly question, but 8 years ago or whatever it was, when the state redefined everything and they closed the kitchen at the Westco facility and the big assembly area, so the kids can't hang out there anymore, or the people, what's that being utilized for?
I think it's just a break area.
Big kitchen?
It is a big kitchen.
Just,
Throwing that out.
yeah, just throwing it out, well, that's, I'm just trying to run through my head where there would be a facility like that around. They had one there.
Didn't they build that building right behind Subway? What's that used for?
That's a different, forget what that program is called,
Okay.
but that's a separate program.
Separate, okay. What are they using where the can redemption used to be? What are they using for that space?
They have that space. They've kind of built some other offices in there.
Okay. Haven't
And
been
that's
down
kind
there
of
forever.
what they're going to utilize the rest of that space for, is so they can expand their office. They're pretty cramped in there.
Okay.
So that's what they want to use that space for.
Well, I hate to see that wave program
Right.
not happen, so
Yeah.
we all need to.
I mean, they said they've got some time. The lease is up next March of 2024.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
but you gotta start looking, for sure.
And they also are looking at possibly adding another 5-bedroom house. They're not opposed to having someone build one, and then they go ahead and lease it from them. So that's something that they're looking at maybe later on this summer. They are serving 175 people, which is the most they've ever done. Through their budgeting, they're increasing their new starting wage to $19 an hour. And just so you're aware, they had a staffing crisis over, when COVID was here, they had 33 open spots, and now they have 5.
Good
And
job.
it's been 5 for about 5 months.
I've got another question.
Okay,
Why would they not entertain owning that home rather than always leasing it from somebody?
I don't know if it has to do with the federal guidelines or something, but
Wouldn't that make more sense? Because do they have the cash to build one possibly?
yeah,
So, since they need it to specific needs, because it has to be handicap
I'll ask
accessible,
Clay, I don't know the specific answer, but I
Wouldn't
thought
it
he mentioned
be-
something.
it would just make sense to own it, especially when you have all the qualifications, because I know, when people buy houses and they're going to lease it to Wesco, they have to go in and make all these changes for handicap, and so it'd make more
Right.
sense for them to just own it, and not have to worry about that owner possibly needing it for a family member, or just wanting to get out of the business and sell it. And I just have never understood why they
It's
don't.
weird how the
I'll find
federal
out, Jim.
government reimburses.
I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
Craig, if they
Maybe
have to stay
reimburse them,
flexible in
maybe the
case
federal government
client
will-
numbers up and down and they own
Oh,
a
it could
home.
be if they own it, they don't
You
get
know,
that.
and they
Right.
can't fill it, where at least you can,
Yeah,
You can get out.
instead of
But
getting-
couldn't they make a
instead of
sub?
making a
Maybe,
payment.
I don't know the
$1,000
exact
a
answer.
month,
A lot of
The
corporations.
government
don't
agreed
like
to
that.
give
Okay,
$5,000 a
okay,
month.
all
So
right.
I bet
Like
if some-
Smithfield's
Clay's
too.
a smart man,
He
I
is.
can guarantee you, it's got
Keep
something to
harassing
do
me
with,
about
if
building
we
a
own
water
it,
tower.
we'll be shooting ourselves in the foot for like
With the water
$4,000 a month or whatever.
Yeah, because they couldn't collect rent
Right.
from, but I think they have, it's worth finding out.
Right, I'll find out, James.
Because we could, work with Region 12, some of the programs that they have.
I mean, you
to-
mentioned the same thing about where the WAVE program is, as far as they didn't want to own a facility
Okay,
there, they wanted to lease it,
okay,
but they wanted to do a long-term lease.
well, there should be something available. We have, buildings in town that are, but, yeah.
With
We'll
the
just try
kitchen,
to
it might be a
find
challenge, but you
something.
can always add a kitchen for the right dollar.
Yeah.
And they want the wave to stay in
Oh, yeah,
Denison.
Yeah.
Exactly.
has to
In
be,
town.
walking, has to be.
They like the walking distance to the
Right.
library. I
Right.
mean, they know that they probably won't be able to get that they might have to transport people, but it's
Gosh.
convenient for them to have it that close to the
All
library.
good things come to an end, doggone it, because that was too good to be true right there. Yeah, but as far as having that space for $250 a month,
Right,
such a
that was
nice,
very-
that's a great thing that's coming.
Because sometimes, I mean, churches, view them being part of the community as kind of a mission project
Right.
to the church too.
Sure.
So I'm sure that's why the church kept it that low.
would CDC have any avenues of knowing businesses expanding or moving and empty buildings coming available? Sometimes you see like,
You can always ask. I don't know if they
I
would or
don't know,
not.
Wise Monkey Quilting, moved out
Yeah,
there, and then all
yeah.
of a sudden they have an open building, maybe they know
Well, Clay,
something available.
Director of Wesco is on the CDC
Yeah,
hiring board, so at least he is in contact.
he's on the board, yeah. Yeah, so I think he'd be able to.
Tap into that.
And the other thing I wanted to share with you is that, this was an email from Susan Fenton, who is with Iowa DOT. She's the legislative liaison, for Iowa DOT concerning SF 527. And this was an email that she sent out, and, this just says background. Last legislative session, the governor signed into law an all systems permit bill, which would allow farmers to pay $500 for a permit to travel on certain highways controlled by county engineers. The counties have until 2025 to comply with the law, but an incentive was included to provide funding to counties that opt into the all systems permit now. What has occurred is that some counties are only allowing one rarely used road to be allowed for the permit and not allowing important roads like the road to grain elevator. SF 527 introduced is an attempt to clarify which roads are valid under the permit. The county engineers were not opposed to this bill in its current form and have proposed language that is in amendment form in the House H 1184. 1, limits the permit to be used on paved highways or streets. The word paved is not in existing law and was not in the prior bill. Requires a local authority to allow paved farm to market roads and highways or streets designated as truck routes to be valid under the permit. 3, requires local authorities to provide a written justification report to DOT for any highway or street it determines is not valid under the permit. And 4, allows DOT to disagree with the local authority's decision on particular roads. If the DOT disagrees, there is a contested case proceeding under Chapter 17A. And 5, allows a person issued an all systems permit to operate the vehicle over the most direct route between the location where the vehicle is loaded and the nearest highway or street upon which movement is valid. The bill is now in the House. An amendment has been filed that was presented by the Iowa County of Engineers. This amendment will do the following. Recognizing that the permit is valid on highways or streets that ultimately connect with a highway or street under the jurisdiction of the state. Adding that local authorities may indicate paved farm to market roads are not valid under permit, allowing haulers to also travel over the most direct route between where the vehicle is unloaded and the nearest highway street valid under permit. So I guess when I became aware of this is that it's kind of surprising. I guess it says the county engineers were not opposed to this bill, and yet they proposed language that's in amendment form. You know, you wouldn't think you found an amendment if you liked the original bill. But so just wanted you to be aware of that.
I appreciate that.
That is
It
crazy.
still makes the water about as muddy as heck.
Yeah.
That to me, it doesn't change.
Tell you're a
anything.
farmer, how you getting it to the highway?
Exactly.
Exactly,
You gotta travel that down the gravel.
yeah. What paved road or street is not somehow connected to a state highway? I mean, we just don't have 4 mile stretches out in the middle of nowhere that are paved. I mean, they're all tied, the system is tied together.
Right.
There's no way around it.
Huh.
It's still just a way for them to allow heavier weights on our roads without our say.
And supersede local authority.
If we do the axle spacing and we do the tires on the ground, it's not that big of a deal. But when you start allowing continuously to beat these roads to death, when you don't have the axle spacing, you're gonna be beating up the bridges, the understructure of the bridge, and then you're gonna be tearing up our roads, which especially in the spring, or virtually every road is nothing but a bridge over top of that soft ground.
But they've never even started to address the safety issues of
Yeah.
overweight on the same amount of brakes.
And the brakes and.
Kai, won't that be so much harder on your equipment? also?
Exactly, that's the point I'm trying to make too, is it's not good for the trucks,
No,
it's not good for the roads, it's just not good in
It's not
general.
safe
But
for
if
the
you've got the
driver.
truck that's set up with axles.
Yep.
I mean, that's what they should be going for, let's move these things to the, you know what, go up to North Dakota, you can haul more weight up there, because they put more axles and tires on the ground.
That gentleman that asked yesterday was telling me, we'll go to South Dakota. I says, but count the number of axles.
Yeah.
South Dakota allows.
yeah.
There you
And
go,
that,
Maybe
the
there is
axles
a
aren't
point.
even mentioned.
Yeah, don't even.
Nobody
I
on the
mean, it's
same
just like-
axles in South Dakota.
and you got engineers they're talking to, I can't believe these guys ain't saying, you know what, we'll do this. And we're okay with permitting, and I think we should permit for it more, because even with the more axles, it's still gonna be more wear and tear per unit.
But why
You
wouldn't
know.
that be part of the conversation?
I don't, yeah, that's where I'm so frustrated.
I mean, I'm not even a truck driver and I can see the, imagine, yeah.
It's pretty much a common sense issue. I mean, I don't mind it in the fall for that short duration of the harvest in particular, because it's usually dry. The roads are set up hard, you got more trouble getting out of the field than you do driving around on the roads. But
Huh.
And that's like 30 days and it's over
yeah,
with.
exactly.
The question that comes to my mind is who's really driving this? Who's really behind it?
Do you want that answer?
Oh, I
It's
would ask them,
it's
I
the
think.
construction / dump truck people.
Do
Right.
they have that much pull?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the
Obviously.
lobbyists do.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I asked that question because I wanted.
Aren't
to
they a
be-
part of?
Yeah, the ironic part is they can use these roads, and then they're also the people that get to fix them when they're all tore up, because they're out there hauling too much weight on them.
That's too cool. All right. Thanks
That's
for
kind of-
sharing. Chris.
That's just kind of, that, there's no evidence behind that, but you know what?
But it
Common
was,
sense will take you
it
somewhere.
was them that pushed the 7-axle dump truck to, or before.
SU7s, yep.
Yeah. I mean, and I get it on one hand, and like I've said, if you got the tires on the ground and you pay that extra permitting on top of it, but to not have the equipment that's capable of hauling that safely and safely for the truck, the traveling public and the road system. I don't
The
see
irony to me still goes back to our interstates.
that we can't use.
Right.
Yeah, which will get you there, especially when you're hauling livestock. He gets us to the plants or the farms quicker,
Safer,
safer.
faster.
Yeah, There's all the things that we need done and we can't use them. And they can go up there and lobby to get that put in a bill on a transportation bill or a farm bill. If they want to just say agriculture only can do that. You know, remember when we first did you probably remember when we first did the multiple axles on the trucks. Oh gosh sakes, that was back in the 90s if I remember right. But we lobbied that, the cattlemen's and the pork producers were really in their goal and helping us lobby to get that. And it was only livestock. In fact, the railroad said, we will lobby to stop it if you try to include agriculture grain. Because in their mind, it was taken away from rail car. Well, we couldn't even get them to stop here in Denison, so, you know.
Let's remember to ask Paul who he thinks is driving.
Yeah.
Paul will say the same
I'll
thing
tell you the same
Okay.
thing.
that I just said. Paul has said that.
Checking notes.
You know, Paul's one that actually, him and I sat and discussed that, so he'll give you the same answer. Anyway,
For that tidbit.
yeah, thank you.
You bet. And the only other thing is just that this afternoon, I'm spending the afternoon with Paul. We're going around the county.
Around checking stuff out. Well, good. Have a good time. It's fun to do when you can actually get some details explained to you.
Right.
Yeah, excellent. Mr. Mulbauer.
Okay, following up since segue right into Senate File 527, I did reach out to Jamie Cashman. I'm waiting to hear back from him on some updates on it, but as of now, ISAC is registered undecided.
I seen that.
And I wanted clarification why. I think I know why. They're gathering information from all the districts, and until we have a definite, everybody's against it, you know, they kind of tend to be neutral until they get their ducks in a row. But I want to clarify that, and if not, it'll probably be Friday at the legislative update, that affects all of our counties. Then this morning, I met with Paul and Sean and Pat Westwald to discuss Peace Ground in Manila, right by our rock pile. And Pat was very open to the idea and just kind of went over what we were thinking and how we would use it. And of course, he's got to take it back to the city council in Manila. And Pat's one concern was the road to get back to their farm, that would be maintained. And so of course, we need to maintain for ourselves anyways.
So he's looking for an easement.
Well, easement or, but yeah, so they can
But
go
we
back.
use it anyways.
They use it anyways, so that stays open.
Don't get covered up.
Right,
That makes sense.
but open to it, then go back to city council. Then it's really probably gonna come down to, I think they would be in favor of it, but what price it's gonna be. And like Paul told that, it's not something we have to have, but it could be something that for a batch plan or trees or extra gravel.
I like the batch plan idea.
Great site that's already connected to what we're using.
You know, when we can use it for batch plan, it kind of ends up going back to help pay for itself.
Right. And then if we pave S Avenue in a few years, that could be a potential site for that as well. I'm sure Paul will, when he comes in, update you on what I just said too, but we did that this morning. And then also I emailed you guys that update on property taxes and the EMA. Just kind of, I think it's getting a little bit more fine tuned of what they're actually gonna do, but it's still not passed and set in stone.
Yeah.
The EMA thing, I don't think that's really not gonna change business as usual with them, it just,
What's the reasoning behind the EMA thing? I mean, you know,
Another way to set some hoops for us.
I'm
County
guessing
level
that's
jump
being
through.
drove by
I don't know.
some lobbyist somewhere, some county that frustrated that their EMA guy don't get as much money as he wants or something, you know? I don't know. Greg, I've talked to him about it, and he thought, what's wrong with the system we use now?
That's
Right.
exactly what he said to me.
You know,
And but typically that's been the MO of the session. If you have one bad apple not doing what they're supposed to do, let's set some laws that affect everybody.
Yeah.
or maybe that's more, that there's one county that the EMA guy just runs the roost and gets everything and somebody's pissed off about it. We gotta put some more checks and balances in there.
Same thing they're doing with mental health, you know, just making sure that everybody's doing everything the same and the funding is.
But even the property tax, and that was in the email, how it's targeting those counties over the 350, cap on our levy. We gotta get them down, so we're gonna punish them more and then try to, but it affects us, but,
Make a new taxing authority.
right.
And I think, and I don't know, I kind of responded to Greg in that email. Did you see that?
Mhm.
I mean, like Carroll now, their EMA or EMS is under the county, the ambulance service is under the county. So I wonder if that's through their, is that under their EMA? So that basically would include that taxing authority that's been already set aside for EMS to go under EMA. Is that
I don't know.
kind of how you were reading that? I don't know if I was trying to, you read them damn bills that they write up sometimes, it's a mess. You gotta go to law school to read their bills.
Interpretation.
But I still think it's quite a way to go about it, how Osceola County went over the 350 amount, citing that they needed to, just for the unfunded mandates at the state.
Unfunded mandate.
But I just think that's kind of ironic and comical, that a way to set back, you are making state, are making us pay for these unfunded mandates, so this is how we're going to, you know, respond back. But
my gophers.
now the state's wanting to, you know, try to get the counties back under that 350.
Yeah, and then create places that it'll, in theory, actually push it back over that number.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, cause I don't know, you know, but did you see how that was worded, that we would have, all five of us would be on that board, just like with the conference board, and then school board, and each city has one person, and then the sheriff would be the chairman,
And can't vote,
but yeah, it has no vote.
has no vote.
Uh,
That whole thing just.
It kind of makes you do
just-
this here the whole time you're reading it.
I
You
didn't.
know,
Seemed like there might have been quite a few cooks in
bless
that
your
broth
heart,
right
I'm
there.
not saying there's some that aren't connected, but a lot of these mayors are so disconnected from what actually is emergency management
Yeah,
needs or does. I mean, not saying it's wrong, they can be informed and.
Yeah. But unfortunately, in some of the smaller towns, you know, the mayor, a lot of times, nobody even runs, they get two people to sign, write their name in, and they're now the mayor, and they're not engaged, you know, in rare occasion, you know. And, but they, you know, you have to, there's a part of education, if they, it's such an important job, to make sure that they understand, you know, and there's nobody out there, you know, that's where League of Cities would come in handy also,
Yep.
to get them together and, you know, keep
Yep.
everybody informed. It's an information deal more than anything, so you know what you're voting on, because it's
Exactly.
important. So, I didn't see it as a good thing when I read it myself, but it's a coming.
well, it sounds like it's actually got some wheels under it, so it's probably gonna happen.
Matter
I
of
think you're
time.
probably right.
Get something else?
Nope, that's what I got.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. Ms. Hayden?
I had what I would consider a kind of a busy week. After the meeting yesterday, we had the evaluation for Molly, with our, decategorization. And she's concerned about the funding going forward in the new silo that's out there. There's no funding for, decategorization, and she's just very concerned about how that's all gonna look. The CPPC program, which is Community Partnerships Protecting Children, they're having a webinar tomorrow, and I looked at this, and those are all the people that are invited to this virtual keeping kids safe and healthy. I'm gonna join in on that, just kind of see, the overview on that is mental health matters, engaging youth, and so I think it'll be really an important thing to kind of figure out what the state is doing to address mental health for youth, because we hear over and over that we have a hard time getting therapists, and then we have so many kids in the queue waiting for help, and the event will provide an opportunity for individuals to discuss, consider, and learn about ways in which communities can be working towards suicide prevention, engaging youth in issues like mental health. That was one sentence. So I think it'll be interesting. So I'm going to do that. Today at 1, we have the coalition meeting, which is the different counties that get together and talk about pregnancy prevention and tobacco and things like that. So that's done at the extension. I also had a public health meeting on Thursday in which Lynn and Kim had been over to see what we had done to take out the parts of the basement. And they had noted that some mold was still kind of growing over there. And so I talked to Terry, and so I met with Service Master Monday morning, because what we really want to do is kill it, whatever's there, we can keep cutting away, but until we've identified what the issue is, I just feel like for the safety, we'd have Service Master. Well, when they came over, he really didn't, you know, in his profession, didn't want to say it's not mold, but a lot of that is wood rot is just from being old. And so his recommendation is that we cut in that area where the counters were, and they took those cabinets out in that reception area.
Yeah.
He thinks we should cut 4 feet up and just get rid of it. He said what they would do is just come over with a highly intense peroxide kind of a formula and spray it, but he would recommend it'd be better to get rid of the drywall in that area. And then the studs that are in the IT room, take all of that out. We were trying to be the least invasive that we could be when we cleaned it up the first time, to not make it look like we were doing a reconstruction, because it was an emergency situation. So Service Master, you know, the fee was $150 to come over and assess the situation. And that would go towards them coming over if we decide to do it. But the reason I'm bringing it up is I'd like authority again. I don't know if you need to go to talk to Colin about taking the IT room down to the concrete walls, get rid of all of the insulation in there and get the studs out. That's a concrete wall.
Is that where like black, the old wood?
That's-
I mean, our flood probably wasn't the first one, that's the way it sounds.
Well, you know, and he kind of did a temperature thing to see how much humidity was in there and stuff like that. And he feels, you know, as it gets warmer again, unless we control the temperature down there, he doesn't really think it's gonna grow, because there's a part that intrigued him a little bit. It's just right there. It's not growing. He said he doesn't believe, he doesn't really, he didn't want to, you know, without doing all that he does. He just felt it was old, and that he would just recommend we cut up and get rid of more of that drywall now that we've taken because we didn't know what was gonna be behind those cabinets when we just instructed them to get rid of the cabinets. We thought they were the nasty part of it.
Yeah.
So I think that we should continue to get rid of rotten wood and things like that, so that we can just start with nice, fresh, and then they could possibly come over and treat it after we get everything out.
That sounds to me like it's just continuing on a cleanup.
Right, I kind of sense that's,
You're not really constructing anything, you're just
My thought is, why not just clean it up, like get everything out of the basement.
well, we're pretty close.
If we just keep going in there and cutting 4 foot off the bottom of this 2x4, and then we move over here and cut 4 foot off, well, we only got 4 foot left. Why
Yeah.
not just take the whole 2x4 down and throw it out?
And now that we've got the ceilings out, that was part of when I talked to the
As
original.
long as they don't take
guys.
the metal pipes that are holding that steel beam up.
Nope,
we're
nope,
good.
nope, that steel beam is,
Right.
everybody notices that steel beam as
That's
well.
gotta stay.
That's gotta stay, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out.
You don't need an engineering degree for that one.
Was it mentioned at the public health board of kind of walking through with Doug and you and getting a design plan of what the RFP for?
I talked to Marcy afterwards, and she is going to help push a little bit to leave the sinks in. She really doesn't understand herself why those need to come out. So, you know, as I look at the upstairs, and I went back up there after I was with the service guard, it really needs a nice fresh coat of paint. If we change the doorway around in the bathroom and put those gates up, we're ready to move in upstairs.
Mhm.
And I understand the concern about moving in until we get that basement, the demolition part of it
Mhm.
out of there,
Let's
because
just
trying to
demo it.
work
Let's just
upstairs.
demo the whole dang thing, that
Yep.
basement, let's just clean it out.
Okay,
That's how I want
the original, you
Agreed.
know, we were just trying to stop, you know,
Two.
get that moldy
Yeah.
carpet, and then
it. I
have
think we
you,
just need to get
You
that
think-
demoed
I've
and
got the key to the
That's
basement
3.
part of it
Get to
now.
work.
So, and I thought that the crew that I had in there last time did an excellent job. They just, I met them in there at 7 o'clock. We had a dumpster there. Now, since that's a county building, should the dump part of it be waived? Because that, I think, was added on. No,
I
probably
don't
not.
think,
Still costs them to haul it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
Yeah,
wanted to
I
make
mean,
sure we
it's-
were,
It's one from one account to another account is what
Okay.
it is, but it's a.
it's not that
No,
much.
They still gotta haul
We
away.
got Lance's, clean that property up, yeah.
The heavier part is
Well-
gone. This stuff won't weigh much.
Let me clarify that with you, cause I think we did end up waiving the fees for that stuff that the county hauled out there to check.
Oh, did
I
you?
think we did, so let me just
But
clarify
you
that.
are right, it's Rob and Peter to pay Paul, it's
Yeah,
Right.
one account
it
to
doesn't
another. It's-
matter.
Just a-
Money
So-
transfer.
I will, and I thought I had some pictures here to show you.
That company did such a good job the first time and quick,
Boy, they got right
honestly,
on
it'd be a
it,
little
too.
more in depth
Oh,
when
yeah.
you start
So this is
eliminating wires.
kind of the concerns that we
plumbing
have.
stuff.
And that's, according to Service Master, that's not really mold, it's rotted wood.
But to me, Kyle's right, you cut all that off, you still got to then take the time to rebuild back underneath it, rather, that's just a non-load bearing wall, take it out
Okay,
and start new.
so
Then just-
that's just that one little spot. And so he said that's not, this is behind where the sink was in the old Dr. Fake's office.
Is that on concrete or is that on
This is,
wallboard?
it's a wallboard. This is not a normal, it's not like the regular drywall stuff. It's kind of a different product. Get rid of that.
Like a plaster?
That's the same area, but he just didn't identify it as a, so this is the IT room.
We're not keeping the walls there for any specific reason.
No.
No. I
No.
just-
I think you're honestly better off
And
with
if
an
you-
open space so you can put, design or have, walls if they're talking that slide out or move around.
Make everybody feel
I like that
happy.
where they talked about them walls you could move.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
To
yeah,
have different rooms
set
for
up-
meetings or a big room for meetings.
I do too.
I think
that's
that,
more
you know,
versatile.
So I just
You know,
kind
we
of,
talked about
right.
if Paul even built a new place someday, having a big conference room, where we actually might already have one.
Right.
Let's make use of it.
Right.
that's the budget. You guys don't want to see that.
Probably not.
What the heck? I just had them, you guys, so don't be making. Where'd they go? It's not
I
funny.
don't know.
I'm over 50, so I
And
don't.
just, she mentioned Kim Fenner, but just for your information, she was, approved as a new Wesco board member last night.
Oh,
good.
that's a
Excellent.
good, that's a good fit right there.
Excellent.
Well, they were just here.
I'd say get on her then.
Okay, but it's a unique situation that you never saw it till they took the little bit out and then
There it was.
I just feel taking them out's a better fit than having, because if we had Service Master come over to treat it, they'd have to hazmat up and,
I'd be more than happy to walk in there and all I can see from one end of to the other with nothing in between,
okay.
Except for the steel post.
except for the steel posts that are holding the upstairs up.
And I also think
And
that
the cinder
those-
block
the
wall
old
probably,
doors should go, those are just snappy looking and, in the original cleanup, we were just trying to get rid of the water damage and things that
Yeah.
were.
But it looks like there's more water damage, so this is
Okay,
still part of
alright.
the cleanup.
Cleaner up.
Is there concrete wall that's exposed that's clean?
Well, you
Like-
saw that concrete wall is fine, and that's where the IT room, and once we get that cleaned out, we should be able to start building that back up, with the IT equipment over there.
So that we can get Cory in there doing.
Well,
his
they
thing.
don't, Corey doesn't wanna order it till he knows, because his warranty starts as soon as he orders it.
Yep.
So he has it sitting there and then to use it for 6 months. Anyways, that's my report.
We all got our.
Sounds good.
I mean,
Did you have anything else that we can
just a few
continue
things
later?
that-
We can look at it later.
Whoops,
Just
later.
remember, don't, just remind me,
All right, maybe.
so I don't forget about you. Okay. County engineer and his new foreman.
Well, I wanted to introduce you to this guy. He's the new west side foreman. So Damon's been on the dirt crew or the ditching crew, running the excavator since he started. He started actually as a truck driver and took over as the excavator operator. He's done a really good job in everything that he's done. So he's the new west side foreman. So looking forward to working with him.
Good to have
He's
you.
really nervous right now.
Only Jane bites, so you're otherwise.
I told him, I said, you gotta come over and meet the board because, they need to know who those key people are out there that are working with people and So, he's
I
got
get
a
the phone calls.
great personality, yeah, and, you know, I told him when we were looking for people, I said, you know, you need three key things. You have to get along with people, okay, number one. And so, number two, you have to be really, really organized, because there's a lot of things that go on a day-to-day basis. And number three, you have to be a great communicator. If you can do those three things, everything else will fall into place. And so, you know, I think Damon here kind of fits the bill and checks all those boxes. And so we're going to continue to work with him. And I'm really fortunate. I got three great foremen. So it'll be a nice addition.
So you can sponge out the other ones too, and
Yeah,
whenever you gotta,
yeah, them guys will help me. They're good,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a good crew out there. So there's gonna be a lot of changes over there. I mean, there's, you know, Kurt Malone, who's been here 12 years, will be, before too long, probably be the senior blade operator. We're gonna be filling the position in Ricketts, the blade operator. We're just a little thin right now. If you remember, you know, before Chris's announcement, we were already 3 full-time employees short. One of those was the Ricketts motor grader operator. We've had Gene Von Tersch over there going in. He was kind of our floater out of Denison. So I really want to kind of get him back in that role. Unless he applies for the Ricketts position, maybe he will. He's done a good job over there. But we need to fill that position and kind of get back to that 13 motor grader operators. And if you remember, I mean, you know, we had 12, and then it just get to be a challenge. You have guys that are on vacation, gravel hauling, and we were just always finding that we were having a little bit short there. And so having that extra person around just to kind of fill in has really helped out. So I want to continue with that. You know, as I told Dave, I said, the thing that the people see are what our gravel roads look like. I mean, that's where you're gonna get your phone calls. You don't get many phone calls on a pavement. You don't get many phone calls on a bridge. You know, or a grading project for that matter. Your phone calls are snow removal and gravel roads, pretty much. And so.
Yeah. That's the majority of my phone calls.
Yeah.
wash cards and slop,
Yeah, and so, you know, so
which neither
that's,
you can control.
you know, while those other activities just kind of behind the scenes continue to make our system better, okay? But what the public sees mostly is the gravel roads, and that's what we talked about, is that, you know, that's where we want to put a lot of emphasis. And so therein lies that, you know, having the 13 blade operators and snow removal, you know, is the other one. The public generally, if there's gonna be a concern, it's something that directly impacts them. And so we continue to work on those things. We're gonna move Tony Kiner, who's a truck driver out of Charter Oak. He'll now take over Damon's role as the excavator operator. That'll just be operated out of Charter Oak.
Which one?
Good job.
Tony Kiner.
Okay.
Yeah, so the excavator was there. Darren Shear was running it out of Charter Oak, and then Damon took over, and when Darren left, and then we moved the excavator and the truck to Dow City. Now we'll move it back to Charter Oak. And then we'll fill the Dow City truck driver position. So we'll need somebody there to remove snow in the winter time. So that'll be a skid steer operator and a truck driver out of Dow City. So we've got both of those full-time positions. So that would be filling one of those 3 vacant ones, plus filling the one that was vacated by this transition.
Is that one of our Mac twin screws?
Yeah, yeah. And so, so we've got those ads going out as we speak, and we posted those, and we'll try to get those filled. Got some good interest. I think we're gonna be able to get that taken care of, so.
Good.
You know, seems like it all falls into place eventually.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully.
yeah, so anyhow. Well, unless you guys have anything more for Damon, or?
Well, Andy thought you'd do a good job, so.
Who's that?
Andy,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the Minnesota kid.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well,
As
congratulations.
do I.
Thank you.
As do I figured, you'll do a splendid job.
Yeah.
For sure, Paul, let you know if you're not doing a good job.
Well, like I tell him, I said, there's usually no shades of gray. If it's good, I'll tell you. If it's bad, I'll tell you. You know, and
That's the best way to
hopefully
do
they
it.
appreciate that. But,
And just remember, it's something I always tell somebody when they're starting a new job. for the first 6 months, it's gonna seem like well, maybe it won't even take that long, but usually initially it's like, I'm never gonna get this all figured out. And then in a year from now, you're gonna go, I can't believe I thought this was hard.
Let's hope that's the way it goes.
Trying to get a drink of water out of a fire hose.
Yeah, and you know, to that point, we've had that conversation too, is that you can't take it home with you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown at you, and so what you have to remember is that everything you do, it'll still be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unless it's a safety crisis or something that has to be dealt with, we'll deal with it. There are just too many things you just have to prioritize, and every day changes. You come in here in the morning and your plans change from the time you walk in the door, it seems like. So you have to be flexible in that regard too. But yeah, it'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there next week. It'll be there next month. But what I will say is that our guys come in every day and they work really hard at getting things done. You know, so we get a lot done, but there's just a lot to do.
Damon, when I meet Sean on the east side for projects, he usually has cookies in his truck.
Oh. I'll work on that. Are they fresh baked chocolate chip?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get out here. Thank you.
And thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming in, appreciate it.
It's neat to see. So,
Thanks for bringing it in.
Yeah, thanks for.
yeah, I just, you know, he needs to see, meet you all and for you to see
who
him.
he is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, got a number of things here on the agenda today. We've got a water service line. This is going to, I think Brad Walmer up there's got a facility he's built. I think that's where this is going to. So there's actually 4 of these here. Ty that you'll need to sign and approve, but it's just a water service line crossing F Avenue. The contract projects, bridge replacement. You see where you need to sign there, Ty?
Yeah, actually just making sure I'm not signing my life away.
Oh, I'll tell you.
I like you. I just don't know.
I'll make sure to tell you before you do that. But anyhow, yeah, the bridge project over on L51 is going good. They're moving all the cranes and everything to the north side. I'm gonna start working on the pier and abutment construction there. The asphalt project, they started milling this morning at 7 o'clock. So we're going on that. The great crew, they're on an avenue. We have a week of dry weather here, which it looks like it might rain tonight, tomorrow. But you know, won't even be the 1st of May, they'll have their first grading project knocked out, so.
I hope it's the 15th of May before we get that Saturday done.
Let it rain, then it can warm up and dry up. Yeah, it's dry, that's for sure, so. But yeah, they're hard at it, the bridge crew, they're working down there on 120th Street, and that's kind of a neat kind of a sample project that's coming together better than I thought it would. If you remember, we left the concrete abutments in place and just put in a stiff cap, and we're putting the beams on there, and had they not had to pull off here today or yesterday and today, we had some bridge plank over on the east side of the county that got bad, so we had to go over and take a couple of days and replace the bridge plank, but otherwise they probably wouldn't have been close to being out of there this week. So
Cool.
So yeah, doing a great job, but if you're down that area, you know, when you drive over it, you'll not notice any difference. but you know, the H piling, right around, you know, depending on when you buy them, $1,500 to, you know, to up to $1,900 a piece. You know, you put 6 in each abutment, that just saved us 10 grand easily in each abutment, and the time and the effort, we just leave the old concrete one there. It was nice and solid. And so if it ever does become a problem, you just pull everything back up off and put the piling in sometime. So it's worked pretty good. Roadside, they're seeding. Danes, he's getting after it. So we got, you know, a lot of seeding, good time to seed. So that's all working well. Item 4 there, I've got that professional services agreement with Kimberly Horn, and this is to help assist us in putting the grant for the Safe Streets for All, SS4A. And so their proposal, the total proposal amount was for 30,000, that number right here. And we're gonna do, so there's three categories. One's the project management, and there's safety improvement conceptual layout, and cost estimates. And then the SS4A application support, submittal and everything. And so the total was 30,800. There's 9,000 out of that we will do in-house. So the amount of the agreement with them will be 21,800. And that's just kind of making it all pretty and, you know, and getting it in there. I think we have a really good shot at this one. You know, we're in an area that's, you know, if you pull up a map of historically disadvantaged or underserved areas, we you know, that project, almost all of it falls into one of those categories, and there's not a lot of the state of Iowa that falls into that, you know, and so we have, and so I think that'll help a lot in terms of this. And we're gonna be applying for about $5.5 million in safety money. So it'll take care of paving the shoulders from Highway 37 all the way up to E16 on L51. So it'll be a great project if we're successful in getting it.
Mr. Mulbar, you got a question?
Yeah, to me, this is spend some and have, hopefully get a lot back in return. That could do a lot of good for our infrastructure, so.
Yeah. So, you know, hopefully, we submit the application, has to go in before it's early July. And then we'll probably know in December or January whether we're successful. And if we are, we've got the plans ready. They're done. So as soon as we know we can go, we'll try to get a letting going, get it done.
Shovel-ready project.
So it may change programming a little bit in terms of, because we'll have to match, you know, we'll have to, this pays for the safety elements. So there's gonna be some money that we're gonna have to come up with. So we'll have to see how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. But certainly it'd be great if we're awarded. So
Mr.
I'll
Mulbar,
make a motion to approve item number 4.
Second.
my motion is made by Mr. Mulbauer, and second by Ms. Hayden. Any further discussion? All in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye.
I mean, I'll just sign this and send it off to them then. The next one is the dust control. We were called last week by Jericho and informed that they had lost 2 key employees and that they weren't gonna be able to do dust control for us this year. So naturally, that's generated a lot of phone calls here in the
I
last
bet.
few days because people are getting those letters. They were sending their checks back with a letter saying that they couldn't serve the, you know, there's 12 counties that this is happening in. So unfortunate for them, unfortunate timing. They've done a great job for us all these years. But we do have one approved supplier, and that's Heffron Services that's on our web, and they'd sent out notices as well. We had another supplier contact me last week, just probably an hour after I got a phone call from Jericho. So I don't know if they were talking or what, but anyhow, it's Wessel's Oil. I don't know much about them.
Where are they from?
They're from Lawrence, Iowa.
Lauren?
And so they support a number of counties in the northwest corner of the state. And so I said, hey, you know what, let's do all the paperwork. So I've got it on here to approve this. When we get it approved, we'll put it on the web, and people want to know where they can go, you know, where else they can go, all the contact information. We're going to upload their forms. Everything will be right there. And then they'll have the list that they can.
So it sounds like they're not a fly-by-night company. They're already servicing other counties.
Yeah, they
Have a
told me they did
reputation.
a number of counties up there. And so at this point, Dave, I don't know that we have a whole lot of options. You know,
Yeah.
people want dust control, and if we've got a willing vendor, somebody who wants to come in, let's try to work with them and get them going.
So what's the process usually? If someone wants dust control, do they contact the county and then the county puts them in contact with the vendor?
What
Or
we're telling them is go to our webpage. This is where the internet's really kind of sweet, because you can just say, hey, everything's on the webpage. Just go to our webpage, go to the dust control tab under county secondary roads, and you'll find all the information you want there. Now, they'll have the list, so they can send out a mailer to all the people on the list as well.
I say we keep track of lists of everyone that's used it previously.
Right, yeah, we sent last year's list. Now, there might be some new ones, but if anybody talks to you, just say, go to our webpage. Because as soon as we get done here, if you decide to approve this, this will be uploaded onto our webpage. And so if a citizen says, what do I do? Just say there's 2 approved vendors, go to the webpage and you'll find everything you need there. All the contact information, they can call. We'll stay out of
These
it.
guys seem
I'm
like
not gonna
they'll,
recommend one or the other.
these guys seem like they'll work good with you on lining up your motor graders and.
We'll find out.
I'll make a motion to approve the adding of Wessel Oil to the 2023 dust control services list.
Mr. Schultz had made the motion.
Second.
Mr. Dozark seconds the motion on using Wessel's oil for dust control. Any further questions?
The only question that I have, I guess, is just that, have we ever thought about doing that ourselves, or is that
You know, we kind of talked about that. It's just. You know,
Time and
yeah,
commitment or
it is.
material?
I mean, you have to have people and the equipment and all that stuff. I mean, we're busy right now. And so we did discuss it though, Greg. I mean, I think there's a handful of counties that probably do. That I just don't know that I think it's maybe something better left to the private sector.
Any further questions? All in favor, state so by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Okay, O'Banion Road
Just want
subgrade.
to make a point here. We have a public hearing at 10 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
For the
If
budget.
you want to hang tight,
Yeah, I'll just sit back.
This should, I don't.
thank you for that point of order, Mr. Schultz.
Comes up here too.
Okay,
I make a motion to open the
Thank you.
public hearing for the proposed budget fiscal year 23-24.
I'll second that.
motion was made by Mr. Schultz to open a public hearing for our fiscal year budget. And second by Ms. Hayden.
Morning, Jeff.
Morning, Chuck, how are you, sir? Good. All in favor, state so by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We have an open session. Do we have any written comments?
I haven't received anything.
I have not received any. Do we have any comments from our audience? Well, we worked diligently on this budget, thought we got her cleaned up pretty well. So having no other further comments,
Anybody up there having?
does anybody on the Zoom meeting have any comments on the budget? Hearing none? Give a little hesitation there. I know I don't necessarily move as fast. I don't hear any other comments. I'd entertain a motion to go out of open.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mulbauer makes the motion.
second.
Mr. Dozark seconds. Any further discussion? Well, you're just handing me fistfuls here, aren't you, man? All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Now, get on to the good part of approving. For resolution. Now, this will be a resolution and vote, so I'd entertain a motion to approve this year's budget for fiscal year 23-24.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Dozark, second by Mr. Schultz. I wait for Terry a little bit too, so since you don't do this every day, I'm holding my breath a little bit. Do we have any further discussion? All in, oops, it says resolution, thank you.
One at a time.
Ms. Hayden,
Aye.
Mr. Schultz,
Aye.
Mr. Dozark,
Aye.
Mr. Mulbauer,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Carries. Well, thank you for bringing this stuff over, Chuck.
Yeah, it's the same form shared before.
What's that?
It's the same form, pretty much the same information.
Yeah. Chuck, once again, thank you for
Appreciate
Number.
all the work.
all the hard work that you helped put into this.
See what happens, huh?
See what happens.
Like a year and a
See
half.
if the boat floats.
We appreciate it. Okay.
It
We
should,
need to make a motion.
Sure. pretty well constructed. Thanks, Chuck.
All right, let me do some signing here. Catch up. Paul, thanks, Cal. Appreciate you bringing that up.
I figured this was gonna take a little longer, but.
I'm just signing one right now. Is there multiple places for me to
No,
sign here?
just, I think
Just
that
the
one,
one.
I just think the one.
I'll let you put it in. Thank you, man. All right, I think it's all back up. Okay,
Okay.
please continue.
I guess the next item is the City of Denison Bridge Replacement Meeting that we're gonna have, the bridge over the UP Railroad, and so we've scheduled that for May 2nd. And so what I'll do in preparation for that is kind of outline some of the, the key elements that go into that. So if you kind of think, recall, the board, I guess, agreed to front the money to pay for the consultant for the raise grant application. Which if that's successful, which we should find out here in, May or June, whether that was or not.
So that's
that would
coming up
mean
quick.
that there would be the total of, in the neighborhood of 2.9 to $3 million in total available funding for construction for that project, which will pay for basically most of the construction. So then there are the support, which is the design, the project development, what kind of prompted this is that we're trying to coordinate with the UP Railroad. And they want to have someone commit to paying for what they call PE, which is project evaluation fees. So the UP Railroad hires a third-party vendor or third-party entity to basically manage the project for them. Okay, and the estimated cost of that's $50,000. So, in our initial discussions with the city, I proposed that, the county, meaning myself and my engineering staff, we do the survey, we do all the project coordination in-house, probably develop the agreement, between the city and the county. And so, we do all of those things in-house and also do the construction management. And so, talking to a consultant, he said, the construction management is probably 1.5 times the design, type work. So I thought it was a really fair proposal that we proposed, to do basically what we could do in-house and then the city hire a consultant. And so then we'd have to kind of decide who's, the 20,000 that we paid or thereabouts. We don't know what that exact number is yet. I mean, it's $50,000 in project evaluation costs. So those are all going to be outlined. We got to kind of come to an agreement on all of that. So, and I've already kind of shared that with one of the councilmen that, there's going to be some costs you're going to have to budget for here. And so, so we'll see where that lands, but that's what that's intended to do, is kind of talk about what roles the various entities are going to play and who's going to be paying for what.
Are you wanting the full board to attend?
No, I think there would be just Kyle and Gene, I think, are kind of designated, but I just want to kind of give you an update of what we're doing.
We don't need Terry.
And so that'll be next, May 2nd, a couple weeks. So, O'Banion Road subgrade work, are there any questions on that? I guess, that's just gonna be a project that's gonna take a while to develop, and that's why we wanna start working with the railroad as early as possible to get them on board.
Because they're not very fast ever.
It's just a little more difficult.
Yeah.
They don't pay for anything, is that right? I mean,
Yeah, so it's,
They took the land and they don't pay for
yeah, so, but they built a railroad that connected the nation.
That's right.
And changed it.
They did.
Yeah, so.
And did it all nonprofit.
Well, anyhow.
Now you've gone too far.
Yeah, so the O'Banion Road subgrade work, I talked to the contractor who's in the Nats, and they are scheduling that for probably early June sometime, which will be fun.
Perfect.
We'll get the planning in, and be a good time to go in there and do that.
That's one of them roads where I know time is the perfect time, but it's probably gonna be about the best time.
Yeah, you don't wanna do it at harvest, just to avoid early spring, and so that's the best I have at this point as far as the schedule. The assisting Monona County, I got a call from one of their supervisors, you maybe may or may not know, their engineers step down. And so they've got a couple of projects that are like our bridge project and our asphalt paving project. He wanted to know whether I'd be interested in helping him. I did that a number of years ago. It went on way longer than I had anticipated. I'm not sure how excited I am about it, to be honest with you. The one project's by you, the other project's E16, just west of the county line, so it isn't like they're clearing some distant location, but it's basically just kind of oversight, signing the documents and that sort of thing, but it's completely up to you guys if I do it, but the way I did it the last time was, it was just kind of, whatever hours I worked for them, it was outside of what I did here, and just billed them an hourly rate, and so that's how I would do it if I do it. And again, I'm not sure how excited I am about doing it, to be honest with you, but
You gotta
if they can't find anybody to help and they need, I've always tried to kind of reach out, because sometimes, we got a guy taking vacation, I might have to reach out and try, you want to try to help each other out, but I want to make clear what that you guys would be okay with it. If you're not, I'm fine with that.
Do you have any idea how many hours or, I mean,
I don't think it'll be a whole lot, but I would tell them no more than 5 or 10, not very many hours a week. 'Cause I don't wanna do that.
The
yeah.
conversation started at the Fort
Fort
County
Fort
meeting.
County,
Asked
Yeah.
it
if we
started.
want to share a supervisor. I says, we have a full-time supervisor for a reason, or engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Oh, I don't-
But I said, but if you need some paper signed, that might be a different deal.
Yeah, no, here's my take on the two counties, with engineers, they never last very long, first of all. I mean, they might go on for a few years. It's just really hard to sail two ships across the
Right.
sea. When they get rough waters, you gotta be seaside when you're gonna try to sail.
Audubon and Shelby tried it.
And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. I don't think.
I don't
I mean, I'm busy every single day.
I'm saying it's up to you. If you
Yeah.
think you could make the time work, I know you're busy and we got a lot of stuff going on. If it don't work for you, I guess, that's
Yeah.
unfortunate to them.
Yeah, so but I wanted to bounce it off you all
Yeah.
first, and I'm really not sure where I'll land, because I got plenty going on.
And I don't blame you for that too, because there's no, to
Yeah.
take on extra and then be burned out because you're doing more than when you're already busy. It's,
Especially at this point in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
especially.
Yeah, but anyhow,
Are you telling us the gray hair is catching up to you?
I don't know about that, but at least I have sometime.
Kind of earned that, didn't I?
So, although I'd like to get rid of it. And you didn't deserve that either. No, but anyhow, no.
Paul,
What?
quick question, how long on restabilization?
Once they start that O'Banion Road thing, how long is it gonna
It shouldn't
take?
take-
They can start the
Well,
first
we
one
should get it out of there if we.
Really?
Yeah. Now, they may not come back in and do the seal coat right away. However, I mean, maybe not that same week, they might let it sit for just a little while and come back and do the seal coat, but anyhow, shouldn't take very long at all.
So total, if they start the 1st of June, you think they'll be done by June 30th of
Oh,
Oh,
everything
yeah,
goes?
yeah. Now, I like the way you put the if in there, because
Right,
keep in mind, schedules change.
absolutely, and weather.
And so this is the best information I have at this time, but it won't take long to do that.
I'm just
Yeah.
anxious to see that.
Yeah.
because it's-
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good test case. I really do. I mean, I'm anxious to see it, because I think, we talked about kind of the long-term outlook, where we're gonna head, the grading projects are probably starting to, we're gonna change from these big mile-long ones to maybe quarter-mile, half-mile grading projects. And that's gonna be a little bit different, I think, moving forward. We're sitting really good on bridges. Not that there's not work to do, there still is. But this is kind of a good segue into maybe doing something a little different that's gonna improve the system. If we pick off bits and pieces of this, I think it's a good way to start.
might segue into, you start doing some of this stuff, maybe it will. Well, we've got a lot of the equipment needed for dust control, because we're doing this stuff now, so maybe you just never know how plans will change.
Yeah,
Or-
where we maybe purchase some equipment to do subgrade stabilization ourselves.
Right.
You know, we looked at one, and we were gonna rent the one from Washington County,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Forever
it's a
ago.
long ways away, and trying to, the logistics of that, you also have to have water trucks to support it.
Yep.
And this would be a good opportunity for our guys to see it, watch it, see it get done, maybe learn something there, and then maybe that is something that we do.
Like Sean and our new foreman,
Yep,
Damon,
yeah. Yeah.
stick their nose in there pretty regular.
Mhm.
So you got water,
Yeah.
some chemicals and storage,
Yeah.
and now you just want to do your own dust control.
Yeah, excellent. All right.
So those are some different things that are going on. Budget amendment, I kind of have gone through and I don't, it isn't terrible, but we are gonna need to do a budget amendment just because there's areas where, you know, in those 4 categories, you know, and I'm close to being over the max. So if you remember, there's two budgets. I've got to do the county budget and then the DOT budget.
Mhm.
The numbers are exactly the same. It's just for the DOT, I gotta categorize them. Okay, and I can only go over 10% in any one category without having to do a budget amendment, or I can't go over the total number like here, the auditor's budget, you just can't go over the total number. They don't care where the money was spent, you just can't go over your total number. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And so where we've really been dinged is, you know, the 4 categories are construction, administration, maintenance, and then all of the support to maintenance. Where we've really been dinged is the support to maintenance. That's your equipment, your fuel, your supplies, your corrugated metal pipe, your plank, and your steel
Tires.
beams, tires, all that stuff has just gone up tremendously. And so, you
I've
know,
seen your tire bills and you have to actually got them done at a couple cheaper places or more cost effective.
yeah, and so that's where the difference lies.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you know, our payroll, we're gonna be down a couple $100,000 on our payroll. So, you know, because
It helps
we
some.
have three unfilled
Yeah.
positions, you know, and you put everything that's associated with that, you know, that helps out, but yeah, fuel is gonna be $750,000 to $800,000 in 1 year. It's unheard of. You know, that has come down. It's you know, it's
Going back up,
better, but it's going back up. Yeah, and so steel prices, corrugated metal price, plank prices, that all that stuff has just gone.
Mhm.
And I don't see it coming back down significantly. So anyhow, in the grand scheme of things, we're gonna be okay total dollars wise. It's just kind of, you know, we're gonna go over. The number's gonna go over, so I'm gonna have to amend both budgets, this one and the DOT budget. And I'll get those numbers together, but we're still gonna be okay, but it's just, you know, things like not hiring 3 people back helps offset some of that stuff and some of the other things we're trying
No,
to
we
do.
talked about that last fall already.
Yeah. So, and then the roadside probably similar, not gonna be bad, but I might amend that for another 20 or 25,000, just to, you know, again, seed cost
That's crazy how much that's went up, isn't it?
and all that stuff. So, you know, so if you stop doing some of the grading, you know, I mean, the grading costs are, you have damages, you have corrugated metal pipe, you have the equipment, you have the fuel, you have the labor, you know, and then you have to go seed everything. And so, you know, when we stop doing that, that's gonna kind of bring some of that stuff back in line.
It was a necessary evil to do it. I mean, it was a necessary.
We will, if we get done this year, what we had planned, we will have graded over 40 miles in the last 4 years.
That's pretty,
That's phenomenal.
that's pretty dang
Yeah,
impressive.
and so,
And if you didn't do those 40 miles, those miles just get worse and worse. and
Yeah.
worse.
yeah, I mean, you know, so we're just getting to that point where there's less, you know, they're not as bad. Number one, and there's just, it's more difficult to get landowners excited about it. And so I said, let's just back off. We'll focus on other things and see where that goes. So anyhow, thank you.
Thank
Sorry about last Tuesday. It was not good, but whenever you're ready, let me know. We got a busy afternoon. I don't know how much time you have, but but we're gonna be going. So, yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, moving on to our next area of tax abatement. Kenwood Road, Steve. Steve and Renee Berry. New dwelling. We always like those. Bring them in.
You got it.
The other day, and it looked like they just had some, no major construction started. so-
Kind of nice gravel road going back there. Yep, so Stephen Renee Varies is on an ag parcel. It's a new house. They've got the building permit. They have not started construction and they're asking for the 3-year. So I don't see any reason.
What do they think the value is gonna be?
350-ish. Yeah,
That meets the criteria.
yeah, and
I'll
it's,
make a motion.
yeah, it's more than 100, so.
Mr. Schultz makes a motion
I'll
to
second.
approve the abatements, seconded by Ms. Hayden. Any further discussion? All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye.
Carry. See new houses going up in Crawford County, so.
So the next one is 2993 40th, down by Manila, Chad and Aaron Scheckinger, another new house.
My classmate.
And they haven't started, they've done some grading, they haven't started any construction. They got their building permit, they're wanting to go for the 3-year. And they're looking at somewhere around 650,000.
Ooh.
Mr. Chair,
They got lots of kids.
I will make that motion to approve that tax abatement.
Motion has been made by Mr. Mulbauer, seconded by Mr. Ozark. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye.
Those new houses.
Kind of, you know, it's good to hear that new construction is going up, but I know talking to people, they're having a hard time finding contractors.
Yep.
I've got 2 more on my desk that I will be bringing forth. One was yesterday and one they haven't came in yet, but one down by Dunlap, and I know he said his contractor's coming out of somewhere down towards Council Bluffs in a small town, but he was, I think the guy does like 4 houses or 5 houses a year, and they had one cancel, so he filled that position. Otherwise, he would not have any construction there. They would not have been able to build this year, so.
We need to get more
So general
hands-on training
contractors,
in
yep.
our high school kids.
That's the problem.
So,
Carpenter work.
We're not Ben more than hell.
yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Thanks, Dwayne. Appreciate it. Bear with me a minute, team.
Yep.
And if I don't do it now, then I forget.
And I won't remember.
Yeah, exactly. All the fault.
Okay. Next on our agenda, new time recording system. Amy, if you'd come forward, please. I know you're excited about this puppy.
It's been a long time.
It has been.
So I have met with the department heads and the other elected officials, and so some of you might remember a few years ago, we started with a product through Tyler called ExecuTime, gonna be a new time system. We got rolling on it and got far into the implementation, and then we found out that we didn't have big enough servers. And so it kind of stalled. It was right when we were looking for a new IT person. So Dwayne said, let's just, hold off until we get a new IT person in, and then we can figure it out. Well, 4 years later, we're finally figuring it out. I mean, obviously when Jake got here, he had a whole lot of stuff going on, so the time system was not a priority. So now things are, under control, I guess. Cable's been laid, all of that good stuff. We've got servers, all of that good stuff. So we started looking at the time system again. What we found out is this ExecuTime, it was fairly expensive to begin with. We would need time clocks, all of those things that go with it. And we looked at another product that Tyler has, much more cost effective. And this will actually work with all the departments. Even when we were looking at ExecuTime, we were scared that it may not be perfect for them because of all of the activity codes that they have. And same with secondary roads. And coming to find out, ExecuTime probably wouldn't have worked for well, it won't work because we demoed both products again, so everybody was kind of on the same page. And, with ExecuTime and all the different codes that the secondary roads go to, like if they're, and I am just throwing this out because I don't know how it all works, but if they do paving in the morning for like 3 hours, they would have to clock in, you know, use that paving code, and then if they started grading, don't make fun of me because I have no idea.
You're doing
They would
fine.
have to clock out, clock in and put that
Oh,
activity
yeah.
code in. So you don't want these people clocking in and out, changing different activity codes all day long, and especially if they're out in the field, they may not have Wi-Fi, they may not be able to do that. So then we have all these missed punches and, you know, so it's kind of a nightmare. But with this system that we found, it's called ESS, again, it's through Tyler. We will be able to, it's not like a time clock, it's more of a time record system. So right now, and I don't know if you guys all realize this, but we use paper timesheets. It's very archaic. So this will be a digital timesheet. So they'll go in there, they'll put their time in, they'll choose the activity codes that pertain to the work that they did during that day. If they had time off, they would put their time off in there. And then it would go to their supervisor to approve. And then it would go to, once a supervisor has said, yep, this is all good, then it will go over to payroll. And this is kind of we're getting like a 2-for-1 deal, I guess, because public health is in the middle of need a new system kind of thing. And we already have a program called Project Accounting. We've already paid for it. It's been kind of sitting there, not utilized. So public health will now be able to utilize that, and it solves their problem for their accounting.
They get
program.
codes too, I assume.
Yeah, and this will, this will track grants, it will track, you know, if it's Medicare paid, if they went to the home, if they
Wow.
came in, it does all of that. And it correlates, it coordinates with the time system. So when they're putting in their codes, it automatically feeds into what grant, all of that. So kind of we're very excited that we found something that will work for the entire county. Again, it's not clock in, clock out, but going, you know, talking with the department heads, we really don't think that there is an issue, a problem with having to see if, you know, someone is here at 7:59, you know, they've all kind of said, you know, if we had an issue with someone clocking in and out, we would deal with that, you know, on our own. We don't need we don't need an actual clock in, clock out, because it's not gonna work for everyone in the county. And if there's only 1 or 2, why are we spending $40,000 on something when it's just not needed? So this is, like I said,
What's the name of it?
it's called ESS.
Yes.
And it's through, like I said, it's through Tyler, and we already have the employee portal on our website. So that's where they would go into that employee portal. Right now, you can look at your address, you can, you know, see the employee handbook, that kind of stuff. I don't know that a lot of people use it because they don't realize that it's there.
Yeah.
So with this, more people will be going on there. That's where we can make announcements. It's kind of a cool deal, like if it would actually be utilized, but that's where they would go to clock in or do their timesheet.
Employee would do that daily.
Yes, yes. And then they, what was I gonna say? Going in, doing that, they would, you can get your pay stub off of there. I mean, it's kind of a really
Check
cool
your balances
ordeal.
on vacation,
Yes.
sick leave, all that.
Yeah, all of that.
So will you
So-
stop giving paper stubs in? Which is-
Yes, that's
I think-
eventually, yes, that's what
I
we'll
think
get
that's
to.
great.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the one, I guess, issue with doing this is, right now we have some employees paid current and some paid 2 weeks behind. And
Whoa.
I've never liked that because being paid current, you know, I send that direct deposit file off on Monday or Tuesday, and they're literally being paid through Thursday. So I'm paying them basically 3 to 4 days before they've actually even worked, which
Never heard of
is not really a problem unless someone leaves. And then when we do all of our deductions a month ahead, and if people don't communicate with me to
Why
let
is
me
that?
know,
Why were we
Did
doing
we
that?
change it? Now that
it's
we're
how it's
making it
always
change?
been.
So those are the things that we,
But evidently
So,
not for
so-
everybody.
but so it's basically all your elected officials, your department heads, and your salary employees, so deputies, sheriff deputies, all of that is paid current. Your paid 2 weeks behind is your hourly employees, so
Oh.
secondary roads, except for Paul, public health, the janitors and the, part-time jailers. So pretty much everybody else is paid current.
Is that something we can correct?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We have to. I mean, once we're going to the system, there is absolutely no way. I mean, the reason why that works now is we're on a paper timesheet, so,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But going to this, you're doing your daily input, there's absolutely no way we can pay current, because I'm paying you on Thursday
sure.
for, you know, things you haven't inputted yet because you haven't worked them yet. So we need to,
Clean that up.
those salaried people have got to go on a 2-week lag. Now, skipping a paycheck is not fun. Like, you know, we're gonna not be very,
Well,
I'm
how big of a
definitely not
heads up
gonna.
can we give them?
Well, this is my plan. This is what I'm thinking will work, because if we approve going to this system today, and like I said, department heads, we've done demos, we've talked through things, it will work for everyone. We're excited about it. And it's cheaper than ExecuTime, and we're actually getting like a $9,000 credit from ExecuTime to, because what we have paid. And that will actually pay for the licensing
So it
and all
won't
of
actually have to
that.
come out of any budget because the credit will cover the cost.
Right, and the
$7,000.
only cost really that will be out there will be the labor of setting it up, like the hours with Tyler helping us get it all
Will
set
that come
up.
out of auditor or IT?
IT, and he has budgeted for this,
Mhm.
so,
Couple of years in a row, I think.
Yeah.
yeah,
Is this the
so.
yearly
Yeah,
expense?
excess in
Yeah.
there, shouldn't he?
So the yearly expense, I think it's on there,
After the 7,000?
the reoccurring fees is the 7,000.
That's reoccurring yearly, this 7 here.
Yeah.
And that's back page is but we've got 9,000 paid, so it's there's 2 different 8,000s on this page. Can you kinda?
The 8,370 is the one-time fee, that's for the licensing and for
And
the
that's the one we won't
training
have
and
to
stuff.
pay because we've already paid 9.
Got it.
Yeah, pretty much, so we'll basically just be paying that $7,000.
And this bottom
And
here where it
that-
says 81, breakdown
That's-
professional services.
Yeah, that's for the total, that's for the hours and stuff.
Okay.
And so this is also, like I said, because we're getting that 2-for-1 deal, that's also the hours to set up the project accounting for public health as well.
So it helped them set up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So the total is the 15,377. And that has the reoccurring fee and then all the hours and all of that stuff on there.
So when will this go into effect, do you suppose?
So it will take 8 to 12 weeks for setup. So my timeline that I have kind of in my head is that will be May, June, July will get us to set up. August, which just so happens to be a 3-month paycheck month, would be the ideal time to go 2 weeks behind,
Okay.
because we
It's a short
typically,
amount of time.
yeah, it's, you got 3 checks in there. So most people pay all their bills on those 2 checks, you know, so that 3rd check is like a bonus, you know? It's the only bonus the county employees get is that 3 check month. So it sucks that, no, that won't be there, but it's the perfect time to do a 2-week
I think it'll
lag.
be just fine.
Extra
And-
good timing, yeah, good job.
I mean, it's better to
Is
do it on
everybody
a
plenty of time?
2-month or a 2-check month. I
Yeah.
mean, that just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So in August, my plan is to do the 2-week lag, do all the training,
Okay,
like set up all the training, do all of that. And then September, use both, do timesheets, paper timesheets and online, just so people are getting used to it, and then October, go live with it.
Okay.
We're not doing timesheets or the paper timesheets anymore, it's all online. And again,
Sounds good.
online, with that employee portal, they can do that from anywhere. Again, it's just, the digital timesheet is all it is, so they can do that from anywhere. They can do it on a desktop, they can do it on a tablet, they can do it from their phone. And then it would go to the manager to approve. So it's not like they can put, I was, whatever.
Yeah.
They can't put anything in there that, won't be approved.
So if you forgot to code it, that like while you're at work, can you do that? Like when you get home, let's say 8 o'clock, you remember you forgot to code something, you can go back in there that same day, or can you do it at the end of the week? Or is
Yeah,
there
either.
Either, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And
Before you
then,
turn it in.
and I would imagine that, these are things that we will need to talk about or talk through with department heads and stuff, is how, if they want their employees to do it daily, if they wanted to do it weekly, because there will be deadlines on when it needs to be pushed over to payroll and that kind of stuff. But, and I also know that there will be, like conservation, the, secondary roads, they may need to buy tablets, but again, we're so far below what we thought we were gonna be making or paying out. Plus, the timesheets were gonna be, or the time clocks, excuse me, we're gonna be, $2,000 to $3,000, and that's all money that we're saving too, not having to get these time clocks. So
So who will all get tablets then? What's the thought on that?
we need to go and assess what each department will need,
Okay,
but I don't think it's gonna be that much at all. We're
they
talking,
could do it on their phone.
they could do it on their phone, but most people have a desktop.
Okay, yeah.
We're just talking secondary roads, and there are some people from secondary roads that have, the machine shop has like a desktop, or and your supervisors have a tablet. So we're not talking a whole lot. We're not talking like everybody will need their own tablet. That's not what we're talking about. Maybe one that never comes to the shop. Yeah, I don't know, like Aaron Bexton, I don't know if he ever comes to the shop, or, I don't know if he has something, he might need a tablet. So, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy at
Yeah,
all. So, we're not talking a lot of cost there,
Yep.
just,
Well, it sounds like you're gonna get your ducks in a row and have a plan for implementing it.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Good
it.
job,
Yeah.
Amy.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm excited, like,
Yeah.
and I think all the department heads are
Good.
excited, and,
New things are
A
coming.
lot of nodding in the back there, so I'm gonna tell you yes.
yeah.
Hey, 2 thumbs up from Kim, so that's
If I
good.
had more thumbs, I'd put more.
All right.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
It looks like it's all smiles and happiness. so I
Jake,
think a lot
gonna
of
make your
thought
life
been put
easier?
into it,
Yeah.
so-
Something like that.
It's
I'll
gonna
make
be a lot of
motion to
setup, but
approve this.
it'll be worth it, so,
what.
Thank you for all your
yeah, but it'll be fine.
That's why we got the best in the business, right?
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve the new time recording system.
I
All right,
second
Mr.
that.
Mulbauer makes the motion to approve our new recording system, and Ms. Hayden seconds.
I do. Good job.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Very
I can just
few
hammer
people still do it on
that.
paper.
I'm sure we
All
are.
right. Discuss, take action, Mr.
Oh, yeah. No,
Malone.
I know, trust me.
Amy, you're probably wanting to hang around up
Yeah.
there.
All right.
Greg, you want to come forward and join us?
I'll give you this chair.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
More than gladly, it sounds like.
Well, thanks for having me
You're on the
back.
hot seat.
Thanks for coming
Thanks, Greg.
back.
You bet.
Give us a chance to kind of.
Amy, is this what I gotta sign?
Yes, yes.
So last time I know it was a lot of information, and I think on the Zoom call right now, we have Ryan and Carla to kind of go over a couple more things in more detail to talk about, I guess, in more depth, I guess, on what we were discussing last week on some possible options for some savings for the county moving forward. I think one of those bigger things that we've been talking about for years that we never implemented was adding a tier 4 copay. Currently, those drugs are being covered under the tier 3, which is pretty low. I don't know if you remember, but there was a small savings there. And then maybe looking at that Prudent RX where, you know, they can go directly to the manufacturer. That was about a $32,000 estimated savings as well for the county. You know, something to maybe just get the claims down a little bit moving forward, put a little bit more responsibility on, you know, not only the members, but then if we can take advantage of these manufacturer rebates as well. I think it will help claims. One thing we talked about too was, you know, works for doctors, things like that. But are you there, Ryan? Did you want to talk more on, you know, either the Prudent or the Tier 4 edition?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry you can't see us. We struggle using Zoom in our office here. So I guess the first I'll start with, do you have any questions about those couple options? I know we talked about them last week when we were there, but I want, you know, if you have questions or thoughts on it, I mean, we can kind of go through it a little bit more, but you know, that you know, what Craig's talking about, adding a fourth tier. While it's not going to be a huge savings because you had pretty minimal number of prescriptions that fall in what we Wellmark would call our fourth tier. You know, those fourth tier just fall into your third tier copay today. But I think in the report we showed last week, there was about 20 prescriptions, 18 to 20 in the last 5 months. So even if you know, extrapolate that annually, you're talking, you know, 40 to 50 prescriptions that affecting all year. So instead of going from your third tier copay, if you add $30 to that, you're looking at saving a couple $100, right? It's not a silver bullet to, like, you know, anything like that. So that is definitely something to consider. The other option is, you know, like we talked about, is you just get rid of the fourth tier drugs. It affects those prescriptions, and they'd have to, you know, choose another prescription on the formulary that typically comes at a lower cost. That one's a little harder to get savings. Actuarially, we expect the savings to be maybe 0.25%. So it's not a huge savings there as well. But again, those are both long-term plays to your drug plan, right? To try to steer people to what we feel are high quality at a lower cost for the employees. So those are two things to consider there. And then I know the Prudent's a whole nother conversation. So I guess I'll stop there and see what maybe questions you might have about the fourth tier piece.
So, well, just to kind of refresh from last week, and I am not an insurance agent, nor do I play one on TV, so this is kind of Greek to me a little bit, but if I understand correctly, that fourth tier affects one member. Is that how I'm reading that right? That one, 5 prescriptions?
That was my error from, yeah, I apologize. I had not updated that from last year. So that was actually 6 members affected.
Oh, okay. So it's 6 members affected with 5 prescriptions. And, you know, the
6
thing
members.
that members affected, okay. We don't want to take away any prescription that someone is currently using that they find works for them. And that, I think we all agree, you know, if you struggle to find that one prescription that works for you, I don't want to have it to affect that. So if we take that away, they can still get what they're taking. What it does is it just doesn't allow any new folks to get into the high tier 4. Am I understanding that correctly?
So actually for the drugs that require prior authorization, that is correct, which out of those, and I pulled up just a more recent report just because I had to have it in front of me in my head. So on this most one, there's 7 utilizers affected. 2 people have a prior authorization on their drug. So those 2 people would be able to continue to get their same prescription, same everything else. The other 5 would have to switch to another drug, which could be an equivalent drug, just on a lower tier. You know, for their prescriptions. You know, and I will caveat, I know your concerns with that. I mean, we have probably over half of Wellmark's book of business is on the what we call our Value Plus, which removes 4th tier. And we don't hear really any noise on it because members, you know, they talk to their doctor, they say, yep, you can take this drug. Those drugs like that, I think you're really hitting on are some of those drugs that are ones that maybe treat mental illness, things like that, which we wouldn't push them off of those, right? Because those do take a while to find the right drug that works for somebody. And we don't want to impact those members, right? We don't want them, or if it's maybe something controls seizures, again, we don't want to switch somebody off of those drugs to something that's, that maybe they've tried and didn't work. So those type of drugs they can continue to get to, because we aren't going to push those people off of those drugs. These are typically drugs that are, like we said, convenience. They may be, you take one pill instead of two, morning and night, so instead of that, you can take one pill. That's what most of these drugs that fall in that fourth tier really are. It's more of a convenience thing. If that helps, but I do understand your concern about, we don't want to for sure interrupt somebody's, prescription.
So maybe the blue RX value formulary maybe is not ideal if that's what you're saying, but rather just increase the tier 4 copay, option number 1 that you're looking at.
Okay.
So there's kind of two different things there. It's either or. I know one thing we looked at was raising it from 45 to 75.
Yep.
60 or whatever. I mean, that would just be whatever you
Dollars
do.
on the prescription, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So keep everything the way it is. If somebody's taking, those 7 people are taking one of those higher tier drugs, they would just have to pay just a little bit more for it versus what they are.
But if you're taking a medication that the number we used last week was 17,000 a month, and for that drug, you would pay 75 rather than $45, and that would but it would affect 7 members that are currently using one of those more expensive monthly prescriptions.
Correct.
But we would got Prudent RX though, if they sign up for
Well,
that.
let's not get into Prudent RX. We're not talking about Prudent RX yet. So this is just non-specialty drugs. So let's focus just on that. Then you are correct.
All right.
But
All right.
But Craig, then when we met before, it was said that the blue RX value plus, the eliminating the tier 4 medication was the better value option, was the more bang for your buck.
It does look like the savings is a little bit more. Is that correct, Ryan? That's what I'm showing.
Yeah, that is correct. You'll get more savings out of going to the value plus versus increasing that fourth tier. You will get more savings, and then even long term, it'll compound a little faster there as well.
So those things seem to be to the benefit of the group and to the individuals, correct? Because we have to look at the whole group, but we also don't want to impact the individuals that currently are on the higher tier. So is there a way to make that possible? That we can look after the whole group, but yet not impact the 7 individuals who currently are on the higher tier.
So there's not really a way to do both, right? We can grandfather the people that are on a drug that's in the prior auth, but if there isn't a prior auth required on the drug, those people would be the ones that would have to move over to a different drug.
Okay.
So it's a challenging, it's a tough situation, right? Because you're trying to balance both the plan and then to the members. So it is a tough thing.
Could those individuals that don't have the pre-authorization go and get a pre-authorization? I don't know how simple that would be.
So those drugs typically, those drugs don't require a prior authorization, so they hadn't had to go through it, and we wouldn't normally put one on those drugs.
If they're already getting, if these 7 people, there's only 2 that are pre-authorized, how did the other 5 get it already? I mean,
but those are just drugs that we don't require a prior authorization on. So they're just a drug that you don't have to go through a bunch of hoops to get those drugs. The ones that take prior auth, you have to try other things to get there. These particular drugs that the other 5 people are taking are just drugs that if they're prescribed, you don't have to get that prior auth to get them. Wellmark says you can have those drugs.
Okay.
So they can still keep getting these drugs.
No, you wouldn't be, because they're on our 4th tier. They come off of the formulary. They would no longer be covered. It's almost like those drugs become a not covered benefit, those specific drugs.
They'd have to switch to a different drug.
So there would be another prescription that would be equal.
Correct.
That qualify
Correct.
Okay.
2 pills a day instead of the 1.
Or they're the ones that are coming, via mail and things like that. Is that, did I get that
These-
mixed up?
Those one, yeah, those are the specialty ones, which we'll talk about when we talk about the prudent piece. Those are a little bit different, correct?
Ryan, if you remember, did you say that last week though? Those tier 4 drugs, those could be removed and they'd have to be switched to
Yep.
less convenient. But they could, in the event that that does not work for them, get the authorization
Yep,
to continue on the same drug.
Yep,
Okay.
there's a process for them to go through and apply for an exception to continue to get them.
I think that's the piece I needed to hear, because if you take them off what they're taking now, and they just can't find another satisfactory prescription that does the same thing, they could still get a pre-authorization.
Correct,
Correct,
yep.
Okay, all right, so it's just a trial basically then, to see if something else works for them.
Yeah, they would go,
That's why.
yep. And if you decide to go that route, we take care of all the communication directly to those members. We mail letters to them saying, hey, this is happening on this date. Talk to your physician to find a drug that you feel will work for you. A lot of times, like I said, over a time now, this isn't everybody is. Usually they talk to them. It's like, okay, the doctor said, well, let's just move you to this drug and you move on, and it's not usually an issue. But to your point, there's some times where they've tried multiple other ones so before they get to that one. But most of the time, I would say, in most of my experiences, we don't even hear anything back. They just move to a new drug and we kind of just move on.
But that removes all the tier.
Okay, thank you.
So that's non-specialty. So
Yep.
a couple options for a little bit of savings for non-specialty, to summarize, is 1, just increase the tier 4 copay, or 2, move to the different formulary, which erases it all together. Just have, to move to a different drug within that same category. And then specialty, I think one thing we're looking at was that prudent RX, if you want to go into a little bit more detail on that as well.
Sure. So this one hits those drugs that you're talking about. They're the specialty that typically are going to feel like mail order, right? They're going to typically be mailed to either a member or directly to maybe a provider's office, because they have to help administer these drugs. So there's not, again, this is going to be a pretty small impact here as well. Sorry, I'm going to pull up a report as we talk here, but there's probably, I think there's a handful, probably less than 5 people affected, about 6 actually, 6 utilizers of a specialty drug. So again, pretty small usage. They're not really going to change where they get these drugs. They're going to continue to get them through CVS pharmacy. There's a couple that were not filled at CVS, but you get them through CVS specialty pharmacy. They act like mail order. The advantage of using the Prudent RX program, if they participate in the Prudent RX program, the members are not going to pay anything out of their pocket for these drugs. So they're going to end up getting them at a lower cost than today. But the advantage is then Prudent does their thing on the back end and utilizes these manufactured coupon cards that they're paying the value of, a set value that they have on those cards. And that ultimately is savings back to the county, to your health plan, because we're trying to get the full value of that card. So if it's worth $20,000 on that value of that card, we want to get all $20,000 off that card and get it back to you to lower the claims cost of that particular drug. It's not a super simple, it's a complicated, it's a complicated thing, but it really boils down to the members are going to get better benefit. They're not going to pay for it. It's going to save the county money, and there's a lot of administrative things behind the scenes that you guys don't have to worry about, that the member doesn't really have to worry about. Prudent RX actually takes care of a lot of that, getting the members signed up and doing all of those things for them.
That's giving me anxiety,
And we
because
would
my
do-
daughter is a specialty.
Hold on a minute.
Okay,
We got
My
to,
daughter takes growth hormones,
okay,
and we pay $20 a month for it, period.
okay.
So what's Prudent RX how is that gonna benefit me if I have to sign up for Prudent RX? Thank you.
So
And that's a great question, because members get better benefits. So let's hear how that works for you. Thank you.
So depending on the drug, I don't know what drug specifically you're referring to, but if it's a specialty drug and it's on the Prudent RX drug list, you as a member would not pay anything for that prescription.
so can I tell you what the drug is?
Yes, and it may take me a second. I may have to get back and get it back to, Craig, I think, because I don't know if I can get it looked up fast enough. But I can try.
Okay, so she had been on Norditropin for 3.5 years, and she's been on Genotropin for the past 3 months because of Norditropin being out of stock.
Oh, unfortunately, that's a pretty common thing right now with a lot of prescriptions. So let me, as we go through this, I'll continue as we keep talking. I'll see if I can find the drug list in front of me here, and we can talk about if that's on there or not.
See what it is. All right. All right.
So
Well,
what happens if it's not on there?
I'm pretty confident. I mean, if it's not on there, we can still have it revert to, if it's not on the prudent drug list, you pay what you do today for it, so we could keep the copays for drugs that are not on the prudent list, specialty drugs as they are today. So you continue to pay as it is today.
The $20 a month you'd continue to pay.
This is kind of like the good old.
When they talked about it last week.
We don't know whether it's helped or not.
So you said it was Norditropin, and what was the other one?
Genotropin?
Genotropin. Okay, so both of those are on the prudent drug list.
Okay.
So that basically means, and I don't know where you're filling those from. I don't know if you're getting them from CVS Specialty or if you're going to a different pharmacy.
she said CVS.
So if you're getting them there, nothing's going to change about how you fill them. You'll basically, there'll be reach out calls. This is a great example since you're willing to share it is. So they'll reach out to get you to sign up for the prudent program. Once you are in that program, they take care of everything on the back end, and you basically will not pay for that drug. But then the county, if there's a manufacturer coupon that's available for that drug, it'll offset the actual claim cost that comes back into the plan, to the county. So then we get all that value, and it saves off of the plan's costs.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, in 4 years, I've never seen a manufacturer coupon. I've never had a manufacturer reach out about it, so.
And that's why we have to sign you up for this.
Right.
All right. Handy.
We all, thank you for
And I will fully say there may be some specialty drugs that don't have a coupon card available, so there necessarily wouldn't be savings to the county in that particular case, but for the most part, most of them do, and that's how it works out in the long run. Now, the way Prudent RX gets paid, they only get paid if they save you money. So if they don't save any money for Prudent, or for the county, they don't get paid. So their savings, that shared savings fee, which is about 20%. So if they save you $100, they keep 20, the county gets the other 80. So in the end, we'll get reporting on that. We can share with Craig and share with you, so you can see where the savings is coming from, what you're paying out of that. That's all things we can do. But the overall experience for members should be very, very similar to what it is today. If they're filling at CVS, it'll just be getting enrolled in the program and then not paying any cost share.
But again, these are just options to
Correct.
potentially help claims.
So doesn't it kind of simplify the first one here on the non-specialty, when you say increase copay or move to different tier? Is that kind of the option we need to look at on that first tier?
For the non-specialty?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can leave it the same. We can add a little bit more. So basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you look at option one in the non-specialty, if you raise the copay, the county's gonna save just a little bit, not a lot. The members are just gonna have to pay a little bit more for that tier 4 drug than they are now. Okay, most other plans fully insured, that non-specialty, probably in that $75 range. So that's kind of where they're coming up with that. Or another option for a little bit of savings is, to get rid of that tier 4 altogether. And like we talked about, force them into taking a tier 3 drug in that same category.
Kind of, when I reviewed this this week, the goal is to not have any interruption in the current prescriptions of our employees, but also going forward for the benefit of the group, it would be good to not offer that, so we weren't taking anything away. Was kind of a short version of what I came up with. Can we accomplish that?
Well, I think, well, leaving non-specialty alone would, you know, be a benefit for the employees because you're keeping that tier 4 the same. I think adding the prudent RX is a great thing because
think so too.
it's a win-win. The employees are not gonna see anything different and
They will, they'll see a savings.
they'll see a savings, exactly. So to me, you're helping out the members who might be taking a specialty drug that's, you know, pretty expensive for the county. In fairness, I mean, do you do something different with the non-specialty? You know, that's, I guess that would be a question.
I do think, Craig, with the non-special, if you go to the blue RX value, or moves tier 4, it's kind of like Kyle said, they still have options to maybe less convenience, 2 pills a day versus 1.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't work, there's still a route to get pre-authorized, to get back on the.
Yeah, neither one of these plans say you can't have that drug anymore.
Right,
Yeah,
Right.
and that's a goal, I think.
So I guess that's where I'm kind of, instead of increasing the co-pays
I
for
agree.
tier 4s, I'm leaning more towards the blue RX and then adding the prudent RX. Of course, that's a no-brainer, but.
I agree.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's the way I'm
The only thing is, we would want to make sure, and Ryan, you would have to help us with the transition, making it just as smooth as possible, so there's no interruption.
Absolutely.
With any of the employees, as far as, you know, filling prescriptions or getting something different, and if it doesn't work, getting them back onto what they were taking before.
Yep, so we definitely help with all the communication pieces, so we take all of that out of your hands, so you don't, for one, a lot of times members don't want, you know, their employer to know, hey, I'm the one doing these things. You know, obviously people offer it up, as we just talked about that, but you know, we handle that behind the scenes, let them know what they need to do, and kind of work through that. And the one thing that's hard for us to tell in the report we get, some of these might have been a one-off fill of a prescription. It's not a drug they're filling every month. So it may have just been, hey, I went to the doctor, had an illness. They happened to prescribe a 4th-tier drug for a 1-month fill. They don't need it again. So they're not really going to be infected by it because they don't get it monthly. So that's the other piece of it. We just don't see that because we don't know if it's a kind of a maintenance type drug or just a one-off fill. So that, you know, it could even impact less people than really that 5 that we're talking about. You know, so that's something else to consider.
yeah, but for ours though, that it is a maintenance drug, we sure don't want them to have a lapse in cover in their
Absolutely.
prescription, because obviously they take that pill for a reason.
Yep. And we make sure
don't want-
we do the notification with plenty of time if there happen to be one of those that they can contact their physician and say, hey, I need, you know, I got this letter, I need to work on, you know, maybe a different prescription. We give them lots of time to be able to do that. So we're not going to send a letter out on, you know, June 25th and expect them to be able to change that by July 1st. Yeah. So we want to make sure we give them plenty of time. You know, when you guys make your decisions, we can start that process internally here to get those letters out so that they have as much time as possible.
And this is Carla.
one thing
You
I-
have my contact information, and we are very, you know, readily available to you anytime. If something needs to come to us directly instead of going through the customer service side, we can, as account management, we can go ahead and jump in there and help get things moving in the right direction if somehow there is a hurdle we have to jump over.
I have a question
Okay, please.
for them. So if I'm on Trintellix right now, which is a mental health drug, and when this plan changes, I'm gonna have to get off of that, go back on something else to prove to you that's the drug I need.
Not necessarily, depending on that one. I know for one, that one's not on the list of 4th tier. The mental health category is one that is we're very cautious with for those very reasons. That's not typically the drug class that we're trying to get people to make changes to. It's, you know, the other one I was trying to, and I don't even know what some of these, you know, I look at the names of these drugs and I don't know what they are. You know, one of them's Clenpeak. I don't even know what that does. I can't even say some of the names because they're really hard. There's a thyroid agent on here, and some of these might be the members taking the brand name instead of the generic. You know, it may be the exact same drug. They've just chosen to take the brand name over the generic. So
I'm
this one,
just throwing this out here because I'm curious about these other drugs. What about all these weight loss? And I don't even know if the plan covers them now, but what about all these people that are on like Wegovy and Ozempic and that type of thing. Does our county
So-
plan cover anything like
Good question. No, so today the county health plan would not cover weight loss drugs.
I do have a question, and maybe this will help too, Ryan. What if somebody is on a tier 4 drug now and they don't have a pre-op, and maybe this would never come into play. They don't have a pre-op, they get the letter saying that the tier 4 is going away, you need to change drugs. Here are 3 options. And you've already tried those 3 options and know for sure that they don't work. Can you, before this would take place July 1st, could you have an exception in place where you keep that drug anyway?
Yeah, so if you get that letter and you have concerns, they can definitely go through that process to start the exception process right then. They'd want to work with their physician. They need to send it in through that. You know, we have those cases, they do that. But so they can start that process immediately.
Okay. I don't know if that helps or not, but I was hoping that would be along kind of the same lines where
Exactly.
you're a little proactive, where
Right,
it's not.
get on it right away,
Yeah.
people that are taking those fibrates or whatever they.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we're trying to avoid, is having to try things that we know don't work, because that was our concern in the very beginning. That you're not starting over to get back to where you are now and go backwards 3 months while they're trying to figure that out.
Exactly.
That's,
Yeah. And you definitely never want to take anything away, especially if it's working.
yeah, that's
You know, that's
been our concern since you brought this to our attention.
Exactly.
That trial and error on prescriptions isn't any fun.
No.
Yep, so.
I agree.
Yeah, so I mean, I
So you
think
guys-
if that's a big concern with that, that would be more likely than to go to raising the 4th tier copay to something higher. But again, that's going to affect a member, right? They're going to pay more for it then because you're changing their copay. So there's also, you know, either way, either of these 2 options are going to affect those people taking a 4th tier drug. There's no, you know, there's not a way around that piece of it. You know, so if it's not, you know, again, this is an option, it's not something you have to do. We just thought we would bring up what's out there and what we're seeing the market do across a lot of plans.
So I have a quick question. So if we stay with, say, option 1, and, you know, those people that are in that 4th tier, you know, and say they are taking the brand name instead of generic, they could potentially make that change on their own to go down to the tier 3 because they don't want to pay the copay.
Absolutely.
So
Correct.
you might see people making that change on their own because they don't want to pay the copay, and then they're, you know, and especially, and this is something that we want to go over on when we do enrollment meetings, being aware of what it costs the plan when you're taking a brand name over generic just because you don't want to take a generic. You know, that kind of thing costs the plan, raise prices. That's why, you know, so you're not making these decisions. The employees are being a little bit more accountable for, you know, some of
Overall
those
cost.
things.
Sometimes there's no generic.
Well, and that's different though. This is when there is a generic.
Employees may not understand.
And that's
Well,
available
right.
online that you can,
Versus a generic. They may not even know that.
But what we wanna do with enrollment meetings is educate.
Yep.
So they do make, you know, ask questions. So,
It's been a while since we've had an enrollment meeting and we talked about that, you know, I think whether there's changes or not, I still think, you know, there's new employees, you know, that have come in the last 4 or 5 years or whatever. I think it would be a good time to sit down and just have a quick, like we did last time, donut, coffee, juice, 15 minutes or whatever.
That's a good idea.
Before, go over everything and, you know, get everybody on the same page.
yeah. And the biggest thing for me is that, you know, you see people going to the ER on a weekend because they can't get to the doctor and they just have a sore throat or
Yeah.
something like that. And, you know, that telehealth, there is a doctor on demand that they can call and get the prescriptions they need and stuff like that. And it's just educating. We, you know, we haven't done one of those for several years,
That
so.
on-demand thing is really nice.
Yeah.
I agree.
So Amy, you need to have us get this decided so you can start having your training, get it on the payroll, so.
Yes. I
so-
mean, no, I don't wanna pressure, but open enrollment is the month of May,
Yep,
because
yep.
deductions, all of that stuff happen in June, first week in June.
Mhm.
And then it goes effective, all the changes goes effective July. So, yeah, not to pressure, but to kind of pressure to make a decision because, we gotta get on the open enrollment stuff.
This high pressure salesman on our side.
And I'm here,
Well, and
I mean, if there's
speaking
questions.
speaking of pressure, we would do the Prudent RX. If you move forward with the Prudent RX, we would do that as an off renewal. We would not have that available on 7/1. That would be what we call an off renewal. So we would slide into that, and that would not be July 1st. It has a lead time
So
of
when
3 or 4
would
months.
that be for like the people that are actually looking to need that? When would that start?
So the Prudent RX, we have a hard 90-day lead time to be able to enroll it. So I mean, if we knew prior to like the last week in April, we could do it by August 1st. Otherwise, I mean, it's something we can do in January. We can do anything after that. We just need 90-day notice. For one,
And-
that leads into the communication timeline, right? We want time to be able to communicate to members to make sure they have a smooth transition. That's why we need some of that time.
And they would just keep what they currently have in the meantime. Yeah, that's
They
correct.
stay where they are? Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay,
That's our best.
so we don't have a lapse in coverage, we just have a little time lapse in switchover. I'm okay with that.
So, I guess,
So we move to the Blue RX Value Plus plan
add, and then
and
add
add
Prudent
Prudent RX when they can get everybody through that
RX and keep Delta down.
and keep Delta Dental. Dental.
Yeah, Delta's the best,
Dental.
rate right now, as you can see on that.
That sounds like a motion, Jane.
I'd make that motion.
I will second that motion.
All right, so we've got Ms. Hayden makes the motion, Mr. Dozark makes the second to go with the Blue RX plan and the Prudent RX plan and
Stay with Delta Dental.
stay with Delta Dental. Got that all down there? Any further discussion? All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
All right, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for explaining that to us 2 weeks in a row.
Well, if you need more times for us to come out, we'd be happy to do that as well.
No, I think I actually caught on. I had a few questions. Gene and I talked through it.
Didn't we do some last year to where whatever our rates are?
What's that?
Years ago, if our rates go up, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I thought we did
Thank
that-
you.
did that 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thanks, Craig.
You bet, thanks again.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay,
Thank you.
that part's done as well now.
I've only taken a signed copy home once, and I'm trying not to do that again.
Citizens input. Really- Dan, you look like you got input.
I do. Gordon Wolf's last day with the newspaper is Friday.
Oh.
And we're gonna get together Friday at 5 to 7 at Crawford County Abstract. There's no place to even stand over the newspaper office, so
Friday at what time?
about 5 to 7 PM at, it's above the Donna Reed lobby. So if you go on the side door, it's just upstairs.
Oh, he's retiring on us.
He's doing something. I can't say what.
Well, retirement's not what it's cracked up to.
But I'd just like to see if we get some community members to come and show.
How long has he been at the paper, do you know?
23 years.
23.
Wow.
Gordon, like,
I'd like to know how many pictures he's taken in the 23 years.
Probably not as many as Bruce Benning, right?
no, but in the last, since Bruce left, he's taken over a lot of different roles. So,
I'm reading this. Sure like that.
Well, thanks for
Thanks for letting
Yeah.
us.
heads up.
Friday, 5 to 7.
Should be able to make that.
he's done a lot for the community.
He
in
has.
his years here, so
Yep.
Yeah,
we'd just like to show
Absolutely.
appreciation.
Might not be room for us all to stand up there either.
Well, it's a much bigger space than
I
a
hear ya.
newspaper.
They got a big kitchen area?
Yeah.
I would think that Western would already thought about it. The problem with his office is there's a narrow stairwell, there's no elevator.
I've fallen up it more than once.
Yeah.
How late at night was that?
No, middle of the day. It could have been the shoes,
That's worse than
but.
middle of the day.
That's worse, Mr. Biden.
Why do you guys are so, the middle of the day? Here.
Okay, do we have any other citizens input? Jerry, you still look like you got something to worry about.
Yeah, I don't, at this moment, I don't think I do. I was very interested in your insurances.
Thank you for coming and helping, give the actual, yep, you're looking fabulous, by the way.
Go back to.
I'm hoping to feel fabulous.
Wanted to finish with the folks first.
Very interesting.
Thanks for coming over, Kim.
Yep. Thanks, Kim. Hey, and congratulations on Wesco, Kim.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for doing
Good to
that.
have you on the board.
Appreciate that. Community service, I like it. Gene, did you, well, we're not done. You were still doing your supervisor's report. I was gonna let you finish.
Real quick. Now I've lost track of where I was at. So that's probably about it. Just taking care of the city center and carrying on with what's going on with the youth and their mental health. It's a
Okay.
huge concern of mine, so.
Okay, Dave, Dave, you're done? I actually don't, I contributed my parts. The only thing I will say is Greg and I had concerns on what Mike wanted to come down when we were gonna go out and check out the roads and the drives up into the sites. And we've been watching the bill, and it's expensive to have him, so we didn't think that we really needed him down here for that. I let Ray know that. So I don't believe he'll come down for that, but in the middle of.
$3,000 bill for him to come down and look at the roads.
Yeah, and basically it's Paul and the crane operator actually making all the decision there, so. I didn't think we needed him here for that, so I let them know, like, I mean, when it comes down, when we're setting the structures and doing the other electric hookup, I mean, if that's something that needs to be done, that's a different thing, but once again, we're trying to be a little bit more cost effective with this stuff. It's them little things, the side bills that are starting to add up pretty quick, and eating up Greg's budget for this tower stuff. So we're trying to watch that a little bit closer. Actually, we've been watching it close. We're just now starting to put limits on it. I actually got a number here for you. You want to make a copy of that card? That's a person that's on my freight advisory council. She's with the railroad. They might be interested in donating like up to $25,000 for your rec
As soon
center.
as I'm able to leave, I'll go get a copy.
All right.
No, just take a picture. I'll just take a
Thanks,
picture.
Victor.
Well, look at you, text that.
Look at that. We've been missing you, ma'am.
I'm sure you have, but I just can't keep my mouth shut.
That is the reason.
Amen.
Anyway, I don't really have anything else that, Kyle, I kind of already chimed in on what we talked about on the fencing and stuff, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Dozark makes a motion. Oh, Jake, did you have something?
Sneak it in here.
Just that we've been having issues with the phones for the last week.
Yeah, I've seen
I
that.
wanted to know if there was any questions about that from this board at all or
It's bigger
anything.
than there.
Yeah, it's not just
They're all
affecting here.
just a
It's-
jar, my old.
That's what I thought it said on your email. It's outside of
Yeah,
here.
I just wanted to make sure that if you did have any
It's
questions.
beyond your realm of
Yeah. it's-
operations, so.
Yeah, it's with Frontier and I guess who they're handing off with. I don't know, I don't have specifics on that, but it's beyond our system within the courthouse itself. So
How come some phone calls go through and some don't?
it just depends on Frontier in that capacity. So.
Cause the little monkey that's holding the wires.
Yeah.
It's Lily Tomlin. She ain't getting it plugged in quick enough.
Pretty much the case. They're just.
That might be before your time.
Is that also why people are having a hard time?
Talk to your mom.
like they're thinking and they're not being able to. Is that also why sometimes, like, I was down in Paul's office this morning and they were trying to fill out something and the computer just was slow and she said it's just been awful lately. Have you had that problem, Megan? at
That's
all?
news to me.
It just seems like phones not.
Well, the phones are
Yeah.
We've got an antiquated system for one.
Okay.
We're looking to replace that this coming fall, so, with the new fiscal year, but that
So
being
wants to
said.
come in here.
Different issue,
Phones.
internet versus phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of a little bit
Yeah,
here.
so we haven't noticed anything with the.
We're not on dial-up internet.
All right, well, that might have just been
The machine, it could have been, yeah, so,
the- No worries.
but.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Appreciate it, Jake. Have a great week. Okay, any other further discussion?
So cute.
Question,
I don't know if anybody on the board's got.
What's
any.
your
Call the question.
We'll call in the question. Gotcha.
questions in the call for.
All right, all in favor, state so by saying aye. Opposed, no. Chair votes no. Chair votes up. I like being with you guys. What can I say?
We don't care.
Now, we're already go. Motion carries.
Voices together.
Thank you.
I've got another meeting at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, she